I woke up and realized I was the villain. I was currently in the Fushui realm, inside the Godson's manor at the Lingxiao Holy Land. 3 hours had passed since I finished my business with the woman at my feet. Her name was Lu Ruyan. She was a stunning beauty with a fiery figure, her skin exposed and glistening with sweat. She knelt there, head pressed against the floor, her body trembling slightly as she tried to catch her breath from our intense cultivation session. "Ruyan," I said, my voice deep and unreadable. "Is everything you told me in bed the truth? Is there a single lie in your words?" "Lord God's son," she stammered, her face still flushed. "Every word I said is true. I wouldn't dare deceive you." I took a deep breath, my expression turning grim. This was bad. This was a disaster. In my past life on Earth, I was just an ordinary guy who loved playing basketball. During a pickup game with a guy who had some serious elbows, I took a hit to the chest and ended up in this world. At first, I thought I was the luckiest transmigrator in history. I wasn't just born into a good family. I was a top-tier elite before I even left the womb. I was the sole heir to the Gu family, the leaders of the 5 ancient clans in the upper realm. My father was the current family head, my mother was the daughter of a great emperor, and both my grandfathers were terrifying emperor-level powerhouses. I literally spent an extra month laughing in my mother's womb before I was even born. Life was easy. I had servants for everything and spirit pills for snacks. A year ago, following family tradition, I was sent to the lower realms for a 3-year trial to temper my mind. The first thing I did was find the Lingxiao Holy Land, which was basically a branch office the Gu family left behind to protect their traveling heirs. I figured, why hide in the shadows? I moved straight into the Godson's manor to live the high life and cultivate with the Holy Maiden. But now, a massive problem had surfaced. Rian had just told me that right before she joined the Holy Land, she had broken off an engagement with a trash named Xiao Shisan. It was a one-sided, public humiliation. On that day, Xiao Shisan had shouted that classic line, 30 years east, 30 years west, don't look down on a poor youth. He swore that within 5 years, he would march onto the Lingxiao Holy Land and make everyone regret looking down on him. My eye twitched. A broken engagement? A 5-year promise? Holy crap, I muttered. I was the god's son. I had just turned Lu Ruyan into my servant. If things followed the usual script, I was the tragic great villain meant to be a stepping stone for the protagonist. I did the math. It had been exactly 2.5 years since the breakup. Rian told me this because she'd heard rumors that in just 30 months, Xiao Shisan had gone from a loser to a genius. He was already killing experts 2 major realms above him. I felt a surge of anxiety. I needed a plan. Maybe I should order the Holy Land to hunt him down immediately? Suddenly, a crisp sound rang in my ear. Asterisk ding. Your system has arrived. Asterisk. I froze, then felt a wave of relief. My golden finger was 20 years late, but it was finally here. Asterisk detected. Host is at a critical choice. Select a path to activate the corresponding system. Asterisk. Asterisk option 1, the support path. Follow the examples of Han Xian or Zhuge Liang. Support a child of destiny to reach the top. Reward, super return system. Chance for 10,000x return. Asterisk. I frowned. Han Xian, Zhuge Liang. Those guys all ended up dead or miserable. No thanks. Asterisk option 2, the longevity path. Live forever. Avoid conflict and stay away from all protagonists. Develop slowly. Reward, longevity system. Gain 10,000 years of life just by drinking water. Asterisk. A bit too boring for me. Asterisk option 3, the villain path. Hunt down all children of destiny. It's kill or be killed. Take their opportunities, their treasures, and even their wives. Reward, super great villain system. When I heard the part about taking their wives, my mind flashed to the legends of the 3 kingdoms. I didn't hesitate for a single second. I choose option 3. I roared internally. Asterisk ding. Super great villain system unlocked. Asterisk. The rewards started flooding in. I got a protagonist radar to detect nearby heroes, a panel function to see everyone's attributes and life paths, and a massive starter gift pack. I opened the pack immediately. Inside was the heaven-swallowing divine body, the most hated and powerful physique that could consume anything. I got the creation demon art, a mysterious beast egg called Fei Fei, and a terrifying treasure called the human emperor banner. My heart pounded. Bind the physique. Bind the art. Give it all to me. Asterisk ding. Binding in 3, 2, 1. Success. Asterisk. Because I was a transmigrator, my natural talent had been poor. I spent 18 years just fixing my meridians and was only at the void realm. Pretty weak for someone of my status. But as the system merged with me, my dry dantian was suddenly flooded with golden light. It became a ravenous beast, sucking in spiritual energy from the surroundings. Void Realm Stage 3, Stage 7. I heard the sound of a bottleneck shattering. Spirit Fusion Realm Stage 1, Stage 2. The power was surging. I wasn't just a villain anymore. I was the nightmare the protagonist never saw coming. My meridians and bones finally opened up, greedily drinking in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The pathways in my body grew wider and tougher. I felt the barriers of the spirit integration realm shatter instantly. 4th stage, 9th stage. I didn't stop there. I broke straight into the profound mystery realm. The spiritual energy inside me multiplied 100-fold. I clenched my fists, feeling a surge of raw power. But the system wasn't done with me yet. The power of the creation demon art was brutal. It forced its way into my sea of consciousness like a conqueror. My family's ancestral technique, the Longsong art, was kicked aside like a stray dog. It huddled in a dark corner, trembling, while the demon art took its place as the new master of my soul. My aura exploded again. With the demon art, it was effortless. In the lower realms, this was the level of an ancient ancestor. Finally, the chaotic energy calmed down. My heaven-swallowing divine body and the demon art were still pulling in energy, but at a slower, more sustainable pace. I exhaled a long breath of turbid air. Every bone in my body felt refreshed. I felt amazing. Lu Rian, who had been kneeling before me the whole time, looked completely dazed. Her eyes were wide with shock. Was I really this powerful? To her, it didn't even look like I was practicing. It looked like I was just drinking water. She looked relieved, likely thinking she had picked the right side. She even shifted her body slightly, trying to look more appealing. I ignored her charms for a moment and pulled up her attribute panel. Asterisk name, Lu Rian. Realm, Spirit Integration Stage 3. Physique, Natural Charm Bones. Destiny, Heavenly Villainous. Status, My Servant. Fate, to be killed by Xiao Shisan in 2.5 years to spark a war. Asterisk. So, Xiao Shisan really was the child of destiny. I couldn't waste any more time. It had been 15 minutes since I decided to break the engagement. Who knew if he was also powering up right now? I pulled a jade pendant from my storage ring and crushed it. The air vibrated. In an instant, the sect master of the spirit void sacred ground and 7 peak lords opened their eyes. 8 streaks of light tore through the sky, landing outside my mansion. These were powerhouses who could level mountains, yet they stood outside, bowing toward my door. They didn't even dare to step inside without permission. We await the son of God's command, they shouted in unison. Inside, I tossed a loose robe over Lu Rian's shoulders. Get dressed, I said coldly. Do you know where Xiao Shisan is? She scrambled to pick up her clothes. Yes, my lord. He recently joined the sky-covering sword sect. He's been making quite a stir there. I nodded. Good. We leave for the sword sect immediately. Over at the sky-covering sword sect, the atmosphere was electric. One of their ancient ancestors had come out of seclusion, promising to take anyone who reached the 8th floor of the sword tower as a disciple. Disciples were stumbling out of the tower, exhausted and frustrated. Nobody thought the 8th floor was possible. Suddenly, someone screamed. The light on the 8th floor had flickered on. The entire plaza went silent, then erupted in chaos. Who was it? A beautiful figure descended from the sky. It was Lu Xinyue, one of the sect's 2 ancestors. Her skin was pale, her feet bare, and she looked both holy and captivating. Her eyes were fixed on the tower, shimmering with excitement. After 1,000 years, was the sect finally saved? She summoned the sect master, a man named Qing Yun. Who is in the tower? She asked. His name is Xiao Shisan, ancestor. Qing Yun replied, bowing low. He joined us 10 days ago. He's from a fallen family in Black Cloud City. Lu Xingyue waved her hand, pushing the crowd back. From this moment on, no one enters the tower. When he comes out, he will be my personal disciple. The male disciples were fuming with jealousy. They couldn't believe a newcomer was about to leapfrog over them all. But then, a voice like rolling thunder shook the sky. Lin Yuan, son of God of the Spirit Void Sacred Ground, has arrived. A massive divine ship, large enough to blot out the sun, sailed right through the sect's protective array as if it weren't even there. It hovered over the plaza, radiating pure dominance. The entire sky-covering sword sect, including the sect master and the ancestor Lu Xingyue, dropped to their knees. I sat on a high throne on the deck, with the Sacred Ground's master and the Seven Peak Lords standing behind me like mere attendants. Lu Xingyue was reeling. She couldn't understand why a son of God would be treated with more respect than a sect master. More importantly, she felt my aura. A King Realm expert at such a young age? I looked down at the crowd, my eyes landing on Lu Xingyue. Top tier, I thought. She had that perfect mix of a graceful body and the commanding aura of a leader. Is it her? I asked the system mentally. The one with the biggest assets in the front row? Asterisk yes, host. My radar was a bit slow, but you found her. Asterisk. Open her panel, I commanded. Asterisk name, Lu Xingyue. Realm, half-step king, dropped from peak due to failed breakthrough. Physique, mysterious body. Destiny, heavenly supporting character. Current situation, the other ancestor is missing, leaving her alone to lead a weakening sect. She desperately needs a successor. Asterisk. Would you like to see what happens when I confront the child of destiny in the next chapter? Lift your heads. My voice drifted across the plaza, cold and commanding. No one dared to move. They knew a son of God wasn't addressing the common disciples. Only Lu Xingyue, kneeling at the very front, felt my gaze. She hesitated, then slowly looked up. Our eyes met. I saw her heart flutter in her chest. She was terrified. She looked at the 8 powerhouses standing behind me, each one a King Realm expert. Any one of them could erase her second-rate sect with a flick of their wrist. I am Lu Xingyue, she said, her voice trembling as she bowed. I greet the Son of God. Lu Xingyue, a fine name, I said. I leaned back, tapping my fingers rhythmically on the armrest of my throne. I let a small smile play on my lips. Don't be nervous. I came here today to share some wonderful news. Wonderful news? The crowd looked baffled. Even my own people from the Spirit Void Sacred Ground weren't sure what I was playing at. Lu Xingyue, I continued, my eyes narrowing. Look, she blinked, her beautiful eyes searching my face and then the deck of the ship. She quickly lowered her head again. My lord travels from the Central Plains with 8 great experts. It is a sight of peerless glory. I see nothing out of place. No, I disagree. I shook my head slowly. I'll give you a hint. Look at the maid behind me. She glanced at Lu Ruyan, studying her for a long moment. She still looked lost. I am dull-witted, my lord. Please, enlighten me. I raised my hand slightly. I have 4 experts on my left and 4 on my right. But behind me, on my left, stands a maid. Don't you think the spot on my right looks a bit empty? Lu Xingyue went silent. A look of realization and dread crept onto her face. Lu Xingyue, I said, my voice rising. You will fill that vacancy. And just so we're clear, this is a notification, not a negotiation. To drive the point home, Lu Ruyan released her full aura. The pressure of a King Realm expert washed over the plaza like a tidal wave. My own devouring divine body began to hum, naturally pulling at the spiritual energy of everyone nearby. The disciples gasped, struggling to breathe. Lu Xingyue's heart hammered against her ribs. She knew exactly what I was asking. I wanted her, the ancestor of a sect, to be a common servant. She knew what maids had to do for their masters. But she also knew that if she said no, the sky-covering sword sect would be reduced to ash within seconds. Son of God, we. Qing Yun, the sect master, started to speak. I didn't let him finish. I turned my gaze toward him, and a bolt of golden light shot from my eyes. Who gave you permission to interrupt? The light transformed into a massive golden hand midair. It slammed into Qing Yun's face with a deafening crack. The force sent him spiraling through the air, tumbling thousands of meters until he smashed into the mountains behind the sect. He didn't get back up. The plaza went dead silent. Every disciple buried their face as close to the dirt as possible. My patience is limited, I whispered. Lu Xingyue dropped to one knee. She was smart. She knew the sect was failing anyway, and other enemies were circling. This was her only way out. I, Lu Xingyue, am willing to serve my master for the rest of my life, she said firmly. Good. I stood up, looking down at her with genuine appreciation. You're sensible. You've saved me a lot of trouble. Here is your reward. I flicked a crystalline pill toward her. It landed perfectly in her mouth. A milky white glow erupted around her body. Her cultivation, which had been stalled and regressing, suddenly surged. In an instant, she broke through. King Realm, 7th stage. She felt the power returning to her limbs and bowed deeply. Slave, thanks, master. Just as she spoke, the sword tower in the center of the plaza exploded with light. The 9th floor ignited. The crowd gasped. No one since the founding ancestor had ever reached the top floor. A wild, arrogant laugh echoed through the air. A young man with messy hair and a sharp, piercing aura burst out of the tower. His body glowed with golden light, the sign of a nearly complete sword bone. I, Xiao Shisan, will grow 100 times faster from this day forward, he roared, standing atop the tower's roof. He looked down at everyone with pure contempt. One day, I'll trample the spirit void's sacred ground under my feet. Ha ha. He stood there, basking in his own glory. He saw the shock in the eyes of the elders and disciples. He thought they were impressed. He didn't realize they were looking at him like he was a dead man walking. He closed his eyes, feeling the new power in his veins. He'd reached the 4th stage of cultivation at such a young age. He felt invincible. He tried to talk to the old spirit inside his mind, but the voice was silent. What are you screaming about? Lu Xinyue's voice cut through his celebration. It was cold and sharp. Kneel down and greet the Son of God. Xiao Shisan froze. He blinked, finally noticing the massive divine ship hovering above him. Son of God, he muttered, his confidence wavering. Only a sacred ground has a son of God. I stared down at the young man in the crater. How could a tiny sect like this have a son of God? Xiao Shisan clearly knew who had spoken. It was old ancestor Lu Xinyue, the very reason he had joined the Sky Sunder Sword sect in the first place. Presumptuous. Why are you still standing there in the air? Lu Xinyue's voice grew increasingly stern. Get down here immediately. Seeing that Xiao Shisan wasn't moving, she panicked. She was terrified he would offend me and bring ruin to the entire sect. Without hesitation, she tapped into the power of the King Realm. The air shimmered as a massive, transparent hand materialized in the sky, blotting out the sun. Xiao Shisan was talented, but he was nothing against a King Realm expert. A loud crash echoed through the plaza. Just a second ago, he had been the hero of the hour. Now, he was slammed into the dirt like a dead dog, covered in dust and shame. I looked at the silhouette twitching in the deep pit and shook my head. It was almost funny. Ever since this kid stepped out of the tower, I had just been sitting back, watching him act like a protagonist. I hadn't even lifted a finger before my newly acquired maid decided to handle him for me. I pulled up his character panel to see what I was dealing with. Name, Xiao Shisan. Age, 22. Identity, disciple of the Sky Sunder Sword sect, son of the Xiao family from Black Cloud City. Personality, arrogant, unyielding. Cultivation, 9th stage of the Jade Void Realm. Physique, blazing flame body, natural sword bone. Destiny, son of Providence. His recent history popped up too. He had joined this sect specifically to get his hands on Lu Xinyue's mysterious sound holy body. His plan was to conquer the sword tower, gain the sword bone, and then become her disciple to get the sect's full support. So that's it, I thought, nodding to myself. I knew exactly why he wanted that physique. For male cultivators, the mysterious sound holy body was a top-tier resource that could help them break through bottlenecks with ease. Down in the pit, the smoke cleared. Xiao Shisan struggled to his feet, coughing violently. His eyes were sharp and filled with a dark, brooding anger as he glared at Lu Xinyue. His mindset had shifted completely. Originally, he planned to use the soul living inside his mind to refine a healing pill for Lu Xinyue. He was going to lace it with special ingredients to make her submit to him. But now, he decided he wouldn't heal her at all. He would just take her power by force and discard her afterward. It was a shame to lose a King Realm bodyguard, but his ego came first. He wiped the blood from his mouth and walked out of the pit. He brushed the dust off his robes, and his expression instantly flipped from murderous rage to humble admiration. "Old ancestor, please forgive me," he said, bowing deeply with his hands clasped. "I was simply too excited by my breakthrough." He acted as if nothing had happened, maintaining an air of being unyielding yet respectful. "If that's the case, hurry up and greet the Son of God," Lu Xinhua said. Since his attitude seemed okay, she didn't push further. He was, after all, the only disciple to ever clear the 9th floor. If I hadn't shown up today, he would have been the sect's entire future. She stepped aside, and Xiao Shursen finally got a clear look at me. I was sitting on my floating 9-dragon throne, surrounded by an aura of absolute authority. But his breath hitched when he saw the woman standing obediently behind me, Lu Ruyan. He stared at her, his eyes narrowing. He would never forget that face. He would never forget the contempt in her eyes when she broke off their engagement, treating him like he was literal trash. Every time he had been on the verge of death, the memory of her rejection kept him going. He lived for the day he could trample her under his feet. He was about to snap and challenge her right then and there when a cool sensation rushed from his chest to his head. The icy wave suppressed his boiling rage. He gripped the jade pendant hidden under his shirt, realizing it had saved him from making a fatal mistake. He lowered his gaze and bowed again. Disciple Xiao Shursen greets the Son of God. He didn't know what was happening, so he followed the ancestor's lead. He figured he could deal with the rest later. But instead of a warm welcome, he was met with a cold snort. "Ignorant brat," a voice boomed. "You think gaining a sword bone gives you the right to claim you'll trample our spirit void sacred ground? How laughable." One of my sect elders, known for his explosive temper, stepped forward. His voice carried the weight of the King Realm, and the pressure slammed into Xiao Shursen like a mountain. Even with his new sword bone, Xiao Shursen's skeleton began to creak and groan. He looked like he was about to shatter. Uffed. Xiao Shursen sprayed a mouthful of blood. His mind went blank. He struggled just to stay upright, his lungs burning as he fought for air. It finally clicked. Lu Ruyan had joined the spirit void sacred ground. If she was here, then the people in front of him were the heavy hitters of the most powerful sect in the region. Now, I said, waving my hand with a smile. "Don't be so hard on the kid. He just broke through a barrier. It's natural to be a little overexcited. We should be generous." The elder immediately retracted his aura and stepped back into line. Xiao Shursen gasped, feeling like he had just been pulled back from the brink of death. He looked up at me, his eyes filled with a mix of hidden malice and confusion. He knew he should be grateful, but something felt wrong. "Xiao Shursen, thank the Son of God quickly," Lu Xinhua urged him. "The dignity of a sacred ground is not to be trifled with. His Highness showing mercy is a massive favor to you." Xiao Shursen gritted his teeth. He knew she was right. He bowed again, his voice tight. "Thank you for your mercy, Son of God. I misspoke earlier. I hope you can overlook it." He tried to sound respectful, but that unyielding pride of the sword bone wouldn't let him sound truly submissive. "It's a small matter," I replied casually. Then, I pointed a finger toward the plaza behind him. "But since you're a disciple of this sect, you shouldn't get special treatment. Go join the others and kneel. You just finished your trials, so you must be tired. Kneel down and take a rest." Xiao Shursen's face turned pale. This Son of God was telling him to kneel and calling it a rest. He looked around. Every single person in the sect was on their knees in the dirt, except for Lu Xinhua and himself. But he couldn't do it. A master of the sword bone doesn't even kneel to the heavens. How could he kneel to a pampered Son of God? If he broke his will now, his sword bone might actually shatter. It didn't choose cowards. His mind raced. He thought about how easygoing I had seemed just a moment ago. If I could forgive his arrogant shouting, surely I would understand if he explained why he couldn't kneel. "Son of God," he began, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and pride. "I must ask for your forgiveness once more. I have special reasons why I cannot kneel," Xiao Shursen said, his voice trembling but stubborn. "I hope you can understand." I didn't play along this time. My easygoing smile faded, replaced by a look of cold amusement. I leaned back and started tapping my finger against the armrest of my throne. Asterisk tap. Tap. Asterisk. The entire plaza fell into a terrifying silence. Every disciple and elder felt a chill run down their spine. When my hand finally stopped tapping, I didn't say a word. I simply released the power of my king realm cultivation. Without warning, I lashed out with a psychic slap across the distance. Crack. The force sent Xiao Shursen flying. He crashed right back into the deep crater he had crawled out of moments ago. I gave you a face, but you didn't want it, I said coldly. Do I look like your father? Why should I forgive you over and over again? The members of the Great Abyss Sword Sect were terrified. One second I was smiling, and the next, I was striking down their genius. They knew a sacred ground could wipe them out for no reason at all, let alone for an insult like this. Suddenly, the admiration they had for Xiao Shursan turned into pure hatred. They wished he would just die already instead of dragging the whole sect down with his arrogance. Xiao Shursan was the child of fate, though. Despite being at a much lower cultivation level, he survived my strike without fatal damage. He crawled out of the pit again, covered in mud and blood. A few of his teeth were missing, and his hair was a mess. But he still wouldn't kneel. He stood at the edge of the crater, gasping for air, trying to contact the soul hidden inside him. Asterisk. Old man. Wake up! Asterisk. He screamed in his mind. Asterisk. Something is wrong. If you don't help me, I'm dead. Asterisk. Finally, a faint, weary sigh echoed in his head. If it truly comes to life or death, I will try to get you out of here. But the voice cut off abruptly. The old spirit didn't want to finish the sentence. Xiao Shursan felt a surge of relief. He knew this old soul came from the mysterious upper realm. If the old man promised a way out, he felt safe. I watched him from my high seat and started clapping slowly. Impressive. A true talent with a sword bone. Everyone else is on their knees, but you think you're special. It seems there's no reason for this sect to exist anymore if it produces such idiots. The air turned ice cold. Lu Xinyue, the sect's ancestor, turned pale. She tried to throw herself to the ground to beg for mercy, but I pinned her with a single look. She froze, unable to move or speak. If the ancestor couldn't speak, the disciples certainly could. They stayed on their knees, but their voices rose in a chorus of anger. Xiao Shursan, you're being too bold, one yelled. Do you think clearing 9 floors of the tower makes you God? Kneel before the Son of God. Do you want to kill us all? Another screamed. The sect raised you. Don't be ungrateful. Then, a disciple sneered. I know where you come from, Xiao Shursan. Black Cloud Town, right? If the sect is destroyed because of you, I guarantee your little family back home won't survive the day. You're looking for death, Xiao Shursan roared. His eyes turned blood red. He could handle the insults, but threatening his family was too much. He moved to attack the speaker. I wasn't going to let that happen. I raised my hand and pressed down toward the air. Xiao Shursan stopped mid-step. It felt like a mountain had been dropped onto his shoulders. His spine began to creak. His legs shook violently. You, all of you, he hissed. He used every ounce of strength in his sword bone to resist. Blood began to leak from his eyes, nose, and ears. The gap between our cultivation levels was simply too vast. Without the old spirit's direct help, he was nothing against me. I looked at him with indifference. It was time to see how strong that bone really was. I activated my devouring god body. A dark, swirling energy manifested above his head, beginning to pull at the essence of his sword bone. What? My bone? Xiao Shursan panicked. That bone was the source of everything he had achieved. If I took it, he'd be a cripple. The pressure became unbearable. Finally, his legs gave out. Thud. He hit the ground hard, his knees smashing into the dirt. Blood seeped from every pore in his body. He looked pathetic. Behind him, the disciples sighed in relief. Finally, he knelt. They whispered. What a stubborn idiot. He almost got us killed. The physical pain was bad, but the mental blow was worse. A sword bone is forged in pride. It doesn't bow to heaven or earth. By kneeling, Xiao Shursan had broken the very spirit of his power. I could feel the sword bone inside him trying to detach itself, repulsed by his weakness, wanting to be absorbed by my god body. Asterisk. Old man. Do something. Asterisk. Xiao Shursan screamed internally. Asterisk. If I'm gone, who will help you resurrect? Who will give you a new body? Asterisk. Don't panic. The old man's voice finally returned. There are 8 King Realm experts out there. If I were at full strength, I could kill them with a blink. But now it's difficult. There is only one way out. Xiao Shursen focused his remaining consciousness. Suddenly, a milky white pill appeared in the air beside him. He turned his head toward Lu Xinyue, who was still frozen nearby. Ancestor, he croaked. The sacred ground is here to destroy us. This pill, it will heal your injuries and push you past the King Realm. You can become an emperor. That was the old man's plan. He was too weak to fight through Xiao Shursan's body. But if he could use the pill to take control of Lu Xinyue's much stronger form, he could kill everyone here. The pill floated through the air and landed softly in Lu Xinyue's hand. The pill pulsed in Lu Xinyue's hand, radiating the unmistakable aura of an emperor-grade treasure. It was a masterpiece, the kind of medicine that could change a person's destiny in an instant. Eat it, Xiao Shursen roared, his voice cracking with desperation. Ancestor, eat it now. He knew this was his last chance. If she swallowed that pill and broke through, he could walk away from this nightmare alive. Lu Xinyue looked down at the pill, then glanced back at Xiao Shursen with a look that was hard to read. She didn't swallow it. Instead, she rose into the air and flew straight toward me. Xiao Shursan's bloody face twisted in confusion. Why wasn't she taking it? Flying toward the enemy without the power boost was suicide. Or so he thought. To his absolute horror, Lu Xinyue didn't attack. She dropped out of the sky and knelt before me, lowering her head in total submission. Young master, she said, her voice trembling. I have failed in my teachings. I had no idea my sect produced such a piece of trash. He dared to disrespect you, and he even tried to use this pill to trick me into turning against you. I have nothing to do with his madness. I beg for your mercy. She held the milky white pill above her head with both hands, offering it to me like a common servant. Xiao Shursen looked like his entire world had collapsed. His brain turned to mush. He couldn't understand it. How could his proud, powerful ancestor act so pathetic? Why was she calling herself a slave to a man who had just ruined their sect? You're quite sensible, I said, smiling. You actually have the potential to be my personal maid. I waved my hand, and she drifted closer. I reached out, grabbed her soft hand, and pulled her directly into my lap. A small gasp escaped her lips as her body pressed against mine. I could feel her heart racing, her face flushing a deep crimson. She was a powerful cultivator who had likely never been touched by a man, but she didn't resist. She didn't dare. She sat there as obediently as a kitten, eyes shut tight, biting her lip in silence. I toyed with the pill in one hand while keeping the other around her waist. I looked down at Xiao Shursen, my eyes filled with mockery. You have a lot of little tricks, don't you? I asked, trying to find a spark of life in the middle of despair. It's almost cute. I didn't give him another second to speak. I activated my devouring god body to its limit. The sky turned black as a massive, mysterious vortex swirled above us, reflecting the terrifying power of my physique. With a final, violent tug, the sword bone was ripped completely from Xiao Shursan's body. It floated in the air, a golden skeleton stained with fresh blood and bits of flesh. Thud! Without the bone holding him together, Xiao Shursen collapsed like a pile of wet rags. He couldn't even stay in a kneeling position anymore. He just lay flat in the dirt, unable to move a single finger. A fine set of bones, I muttered. I clenched my hand, and the golden bone was sucked into the black vortex. My god body hungrily absorbed it, turning the legendary treasure into raw nourishment for my own power. A massive wave of energy flooded my veins. It was vast, like an ocean. I knew that once I took the time to refine this, my cultivation would skyrocket. But I wasn't done yet. I still had to deal with this so-called child of destiny. Xiao Shursen lay in the pit, his head turned to the side, weeping tears of blood. He watched as the bone that made him a genius was devoured. He watched as the woman he respected sat in the arms of his enemy. He wanted to fight. He wanted to burn his soul just to scratch me. But he was empty. Even the old spirit inside him knew that acting now would only result in instant death. Suddenly, a sharp, clear cry of a crane pierced the sky. Big Brother Xiao, where are you? The sect's protective array, already weakened, was torn apart like paper once again. A massive spirit crane soared into the plaza. Two figures jumped down. The girl in front was stunning. Her skin was as white as snow with a hint of pink, and her long black hair flowed like a silk waterfall. She had the purity of a young girl mixed with the budding grace of a woman. "Big brother? I can't feel your breath. Where are you?" Her face was pale with panic as she scanned the ruins. Behind her stood an old woman hidden under a dark cloak. My guard, the Holy Lord of Lingxiao, leaned in and whispered to me, "Young master, that old woman is dangerous. She's at the peak of the king realm, just like me. I don't recognize her from any of the local powers. They aren't from this world." He sounded calm. Even against a peak king realm expert from the upper realm, he wasn't worried. He knew who I was. He knew the weight of the Gu family name. I nodded slowly, but I wasn't looking at the old woman. My eyes were fixed on the girl. A screen of light appeared in my vision, revealing her secrets. Asterisk name, Hualiener. Realm, profound origin stage, level 6. Physique, water moon spirit body. Destiny, main heroine. Relationship, Xiao Shisan's future wife, asterisk. The information explained that she was a daughter of the Hua family from the upper realm. Xiao Shisan had helped her once in the past, and she viewed him as a brother. Later, they were supposed to become a legendary couple. I almost laughed out loud. The main heroine had delivered herself right to my doorstep. This saved me a lot of walking. Hualiener finally spotted the bloody mess at the edge of the crater. "Big brother Xiao," she screamed, rushing forward. The old woman moved instantly, blocking her path. "Miss, let me." With a wave of her sleeve, the old woman used her energy to lift the dying Xiao Shisan out of the dirt. She took one look at him and sighed. "He has the lingering scent of a sword bone, but the bone itself is gone," the old woman whispered. "It was ripped out. His meridians are shattered. Even if he lives, his path as a cultivator is likely over." She popped a pill into his mouth. It wouldn't heal him, but it would keep his heart beating for a few more hours. Hualiener covered her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. Who could do this?" "Miss, be quiet," the old woman hissed via telepathy. "This is the lower realm, and my power is suppressed. There are 8 king realm experts here, and 2 of them are at my level. If we fight, we lose. We need to take him and leave. Now." The old woman looked at Xiao Shisan with hidden contempt. She was Hualiener's protector and had watched the girl grow up. She knew the girl had a crush on this boy because he'd helped her when she was young and naive. But to the old woman, a boy from a backwater world like this was never worthy of the Hua family. Now that he was a crippled waste, he was even less than nothing. Hualiener bit her lip and nodded, her eyes trembling. She had grown up in a sheltered, peaceful environment. She had never seen this much blood, and she had never felt this kind of terror. I watched the scene unfold with a cold, detached amusement. Hualiener was a sensitive soul. Back in her world, she'd cry for days if a pet dog died. Seeing people she knew from this lower realm suffering was clearly tearing her apart. Her protector, old Kai, stepped forward, her voice raspy but projecting an air of authority. "Everyone, listen," the old woman said, trying to sound reasonable. "I am from the upper realm. I am currently traveling through this lower world to guide my young mistress through her trials. I hope you will grant us a favor and let me take this man away. Let's not make this difficult." She was playing her trump card early. She expected the mention of the upper realm to make us tremble and back down. It was a classic move to avoid conflict by intimidation. The response she got wasn't fear. It was a burst of mocking laughter. One of my wind lords from the Lingxiao Holy Land laughed so hard his shoulders shook. "You think your background matters here? Forget about taking him. Whether the 2 of you leave this place alive depends entirely on my son of God's mood." This wind lord was a peak king realm expert, second only to the Holy Master himself. He wasn't about to miss a chance to show off his loyalty in front of me. He didn't wait for a reply. He struck. "Town suppressing palm," he roared. A massive, glowing hand materialized in the sky, carrying enough weight to crush a mountain. "Miss, get behind me," old Kai screamed. She hadn't expected us to be so bold. In her mind, lower realm ants should have been bowing the moment she spoke. Now, she was facing a lethal strike. She thrust her withered fingers into the air, tracing glowing lines in the void. Flower array rise. Thousands of vibrant, ethereal flowers erupted from the ground, weaving together into a strange, shimmering barrier around her, Hualiener, and the broken Xiao Shisan. The palm struck the barrier with a deafening boom. Dust and grit choked the air. The flower array cracked, spiderwebs of light spreading across its surface, but it held. Old Kai had used every bit of her suppressed cultivation to tank the hit. When the dust cleared, Old Kai's face was livid. She was shaking with rage. If she didn't have to protect the girl, she wouldn't be playing defense. Being pushed back by someone she considered a local peasant was the ultimate humiliation. The shockwave of the impact had one side effect. It jarred Xiao Shisan back to consciousness. He looked like a slaughtered dog, but his eyes fluttered open. He saw the girl standing over him. "Leonor, is it you?" he wheezed. He reached out a trembling, bloody hand, trying to grab her ankle. It was pure instinct. He was a drowning man reaching for a life raft. But Hualiener didn't reach back. She took a small, subtle step away. Her foot avoided his touch entirely. She had called him her sworn brother and wanted to help him, sure, but she wasn't about to let a bloody, broken mess touch her. She was destined for greatness. He was a ruin. Xiao Shisan felt the sting of the rejection, but he was too desperate to care. He felt the pill Old Kai had given him working, dulling the pain just enough for him to speak. "Leonor, kill them!" he shrieked, his voice cracking with pure hatred. "They came to my sect for no reason. They ripped out my sword bone. They want me dead. Make them suffer. Kill them all." He looked like a demon, his face twisted in a mask of gore and spite. Hualiener winced. This wasn't the elegant, talented genius she remembered. This was a monster. She looked at the 8 King Realm experts surrounding them and felt a cold sweat break out. "Brother Xiao, please," she whispered. "We need to be smart. We need to leave first." "Leave?" Xiao Shisan's head snapped toward her. He couldn't believe it. In his mind, anyone from the upper realm was a god. He thought Old Kai could snap her fingers and end us. Why leave? Kill them. Are you really going to be this heartless? Help me get revenge. He tried to hide his fury, realizing he was still at their mercy, but the resentment was boiling over. I stood above them, still casually playing with the jade pendant in my hand. I couldn't help but chuckle. "Hey, are you 3 done?" I asked, my voice dropping to a dangerous low. "You're talking about revenge and leaving like I'm not even here. You really don't take me seriously, do you?" Before anyone could blink, I moved. Slap. A burst of energy slammed into Xiao Shisan, burying his head back into the dirt with a sickening thud. It was so fast that even Old Kai couldn't react in time. She stood frozen, her eyes wide with shock. She looked at me, truly seeing me for the first time. I was young, impossibly young, yet I was already a King Realm expert with speed she couldn't track. A genius like me didn't belong in a backwater world. I had to be from a major family in the upper realm. She lowered her head, her voice losing its edge. "I am the 17th elder of the Hua family. May I ask which power you represent? Let us not have a misunderstanding between allies." "Where I'm from." I shook my head slowly. "You aren't worthy of knowing the name of the Gu family." I didn't need my family's name to handle this. I raised my hand. 6 of my King Realm guards blurred forward, surrounding them in a perfect hexagon. The air grew heavy with killing intent. "Are you really forcing us into a fight to the death?" Old Kai growled, pulling the girl behind her. She didn't even look at Xiao Shisan anymore. She wished he would just die and stop causing trouble. Xiao Shisan pulled his head out of the mud again, laughing hysterically. "You're all crazy. My sister is from the upper realm. You should be on your knees begging for mercy. Your experts are just second-rate trash compared to her family. Put down your weapons, and maybe I'll let you live." Crack. Another slap echoed through the clearing. This time, it wasn't me. Old Kai had reached down and backhanded Xiao Shisan so hard his remaining teeth shattered into white shards. "Shut your mouth, you fool," she hissed. She wanted to skin him alive. He was trying to get them all killed. But as Xiao Shisan lay there spitting blood, Hualiener's eyes narrowed. Something clicked in her mind. She had never told Xiao Shisan she was from the upper realm. And when Old Kai had introduced herself earlier, Xiao Shisan had been unconscious. How did he know? The only explanation was that Xiao Shisan had known her identity from the very beginning. He had deliberately approached her, using small favors to become her sworn brother just to climb the massive tree of the Hua family. Suddenly, a crisp notification chimed in my mind. Asterisk ding. Detected that Hua Lianer has developed a rift with Xiao Shisan. Serious suspicion triggered. Reward, 100% drop rate. After killing the Child of Destiny, all his equipment will drop. Asterisk. I paused, slightly amused. I hadn't even done anything yet, and they were already falling apart. This was perfect. I was actually starting to look forward to seeing what kind of loot would pop out of Xiao Shisan once I ended him. On the other side, my 6 King Realm guards were coiled like springs, their killing intent locked firmly onto Old Kai. They were ready to strike at my slightest nod. Old Kai looked around nervously, her face pale. She leaned in and whispered to Hua Lianer via a sound transmission. Miss, we have to use that identity now. I know you don't like to acknowledge it, but let me speak. Hua Lianer's face was cold. The situation had spiraled far beyond her expectations. She realized she had to play her final trump card. She stepped out from behind Old Kai, her fragile act vanishing. Her eyes grew firm, and she didn't give Xiao Shisan a single glance. Taking a deep breath, she looked at the crowd and spoke slowly. You might not know the Hua family, but the Upper Realm's Longevity Gu family. Surely you've heard of them? I consider myself half a member of the Gu family. The Longevity Gu family. The moment those words left her lips, the aggressive energy from my guards vanished instantly. They froze, looking at each other in utter confusion. Then, as if on cue, they all turned their heads to look at me, still lounging with my arms around Lu Xinhua. There was only one Longevity Gu family in the Upper Realm, my family. The guards began to whisper among themselves. Half a Gu family member? Usually, someone only called themselves that if they had married into the family. They looked at the girl, then back at me. She was about my age. A terrifying thought crossed their minds. Asterisk, is this the son of God's own woman? Did we almost kill our master's girlfriend? Asterisk. The tension in the air evaporated as they lowered their weapons, looking awkward. Hua Lianer felt the shift and let out a small sigh of relief. It seemed that even in the lower realm, the name of the Gu family was a golden shield. She thought she was safe. But then I spoke. Oh, I looked down at her, my voice calm. You're saying you're a member of the Gu family? I quickly scanned through my memories of every branch, every distant relative, and every vassal family. I couldn't recall a single branch with the surname Hua. This lowly girl is indeed half a member of the Gu family, Hua Lianer said, her voice regaining its steady, noble confidence. I wouldn't dare lie about such a thing. She looked so sure of herself that anyone watching would have believed her. At that moment, Xiao Shisan groaned and woke up again. Through the spirit dwelling inside him, he had heard everything. His sister wasn't just a princess of the Hua family. She was connected to the legendary Gu family. Shisan, the old man's voice echoed in his head. Since your sister is from the Gu family, you must cling to her. Your future will be limitless. You might not know the Gu family, but let me put it this way. If you poked a hole in the heavens themselves, you might survive. But if you provoke the Gu family, death would be your only mercy. Xiao Shisan's spirit surged. He felt a sudden burst of energy. He had been saved. Again, his breathing grew heavy, and he somehow found the strength to crawl out of the mud. He glared at me with pure, unfiltered hatred. In his mind, he was already dreaming of the ways he would torture me later. And he'd take that woman, Lu Xinhua, for himself too. Hua Lianer saw the change in him and felt a wave of disgust. He felt like a complete stranger now. She turned back to me. Now that you know, will you let us leave? No one would dare fake an association with the Gu family. We wouldn't risk our lives or our clan's survival on a lie. Wait. A roar interrupted her. Xiao Shisan stood up, pointing a trembling finger at my guards, and then at me. He looked at Hua Lianer with righteous indignation. Lianer, you're too soft-hearted. This is just the lower realm. There's no need to be so careful. Today, we should make them crawl on their knees and kill themselves. Listen to your brother. Don't let them off easy. Xiao Shisan, shut up. Hua Lianer finally snapped. She had been trying to play it cool, trying to find a peaceful way out, and this idiot kept pushing them toward a cliff. From this day on, we are no longer siblings. Do as you please. She was completely broken. Even with her high status, she couldn't handle his sheer stupidity. Didn't he understand the concept of reading the room? Sister Yu. Xiao Shursen froze. He couldn't believe her attitude. Why was she being so cowardly when she had the Gu family behind her? Old man, he asked internally. Asterisk, is the Gu family really that big? Why is she acting like a scared rabbit? Is it possible the Gu family fell apart while you were dead? Asterisk. Impossible, the old man snapped. If the Gu family were gone, the myriad worlds would likely cease to exist. They are beyond your comprehension. Xiao Shursan's eyes lit up. He realized he had been right. His sister just didn't understand how powerful her own background was. If she wouldn't teach these people a lesson, he would do it for her. After all, she wouldn't lie about being a Gu. He ignored the pain racking his body and slowly drew his sword. It was a plain, unremarkable blade, but he pointed it directly at my face. Son of God of the Spirit Void's sacred land, right? He shouted, his voice echoing across the clearing. If you don't return my sword bone right now, cripple your own cultivation, and chop off your own hands and feet, then your sacred land has no reason to exist anymore. The silence that followed was deafening. The guards looked at him like he was a ghost. Lu Xinyue, who knew exactly who I was, felt like her brain was melting. This guy was using the Gu family's name to threaten the son of God of the Gu family? Clang. I hadn't even moved my arm. I simply flicked a finger through the air. A ripple of force struck his sword, sending it flying out of his hand and spinning into the distance. The level of your shamelessness is truly an eye-opener, I said softly. I reached out and idly traced a finger along Lu Xinyue's cheek, completely ignoring the stunned Xiao Shursan. Then, I looked past him at the trembling Hualiener. The longevity Gu family, huh? I know who the Gu family is, I said, my voice calm but cold. But you said you were from the Hua family. As far as I know, the Hua and Gu families have no connection at all. You should know the price of impersonating a Gu. Your entire clan will be buried with you. Hualiener paled, her breath hitching in her throat. I'm not lying. I really am. A person of the Gu family's future. I didn't move. I wasn't in a hurry. As a villain, I already saw Xiao Shursan as a dead man. He wouldn't last another few minutes. But before he died, I wanted to know exactly what kind of connection this girl thought she had with my family. Is that so? Do you have proof? I asked. I do, but... She hesitated, her eyes darting around the clearing. She looked like she was struggling to say the words out loud. Xiao Shursan, seeing her hesitation, grew desperate. His life was currently hanging by a thread. Liener, don't be afraid. Just tell them. Once they know, they'll have to kowtow to us and cripple their own cultivation to apologize. Shut up. Hualiener snapped at him. She finally understood why her guardians wanted to slap this idiot. If she didn't produce something substantial right now, none of them were leaving this mountain alive. She took a deep breath, her face hardening with resolve. I can show you my identity symbol. But the Gu family doesn't want many people to know about this. If I show it, and you all see it, the Gu family might wipe every single one of you out to keep the secret. No one will be spared. The clearing went silent. The disciples and elders of the Great Abyss Sword Sect didn't doubt her for a second. To them, people from the upper realm were like gods. Even a stray spark from their battle could turn them to ash. They wanted to cover their ears and run, but they were pinned to the ground by the pressure of my guards. They could only kneel there, faces twisted in terror, looking toward their ancestor for help. But Lu Xinyue was still sitting on my lap, trembling and flushing, barely able to save herself. Xiao Shursan, however, was thrilled. He was convinced Hualiener was some secret high-ranking member of the Gu family, maybe even an illegitimate daughter. He didn't care about the danger of knowing the secret. In his mind, she was already his woman. If he became the son-in-law of the Gu family, who would dare kill him? Don't be afraid, Liener. Speak up. Your brother will protect you, he shouted, puffing out his chest. Hualiener looked at him with pure disgust. She looked like she wanted to vomit. If we weren't in the middle of a crisis, she probably would have stabbed him herself. She ignored him and kept her eyes locked on me. She knew I was the only one who mattered. I shifted Lu Xinyue from my left leg to my right, idly playing with her fingers. Go on then. Let me see this identity of yours. Hualiener exhaled sharply. She reached for her spatial ring and pulled out a delicate, pink jade pendant. My eyebrows shot up. It was real. That was definitely a Gu family jade, but the color meant everything. My own pendant was gold, marking me as the direct lineage and the son of God. Pink, however. Before I could finish the thought, Hualiener tossed the pendant into the air. She bit her finger and flicked a drop of blood onto the jade. The world changed instantly. The pendant erupted with a blinding light. The Great Abyss Sword Sect's protective array, already weakened, was shredded to pieces by the raw energy. Dark clouds swirled violently above us, and bolts of lightning, each powerful enough to kill the strongest masters of this world, crashed through the sky. The pressure was suffocating. Disciples began coughing up blood, collapsing under the weight of the aura. The lightning began to knit together in the sky, forming a massive, glowing character, Jiu. It hung there like a decree from heaven itself. Even my King Realm guards felt their breathing grow heavy. This was the true power of my family's crest. Son of God, that token, the leader of my guards whispered, his voice shaking. It's ours, I said, a rare smile touching my lips. And it actually has quite a history with me. Memories flooded back. When I was born, my constitution was weaker than normal. My parents had been desperate to fix my meridians, and one of the methods they chose was dual cultivation, finding specific women to act as vessels to balance my energy. My father, being the blunt man he was, hadn't kept it a secret. He had issued a highest reward order across the upper realm to find the perfect girls for his 5-year-old son. Every family wanting to climb the social ladder had scrambled to offer their daughters. In the end, only 9 girls were chosen. They were to be my furnaces once I came of age. Hualiener was right about the death sentence, though. After the 9 were selected, my mother, concerned about my future reputation, ordered that the matter never be spoken of again. Anyone who mentioned the 9 vessels would be hunted down by the Gu family. I looked at the girl standing in the middle of the storm. So, she was one of the 9. She was meant to be mine. My mind drifted back to the power of the Gu family. Even wiping out an entire lower realm would be easy for us. I looked at Hualiener, a faint smile playing on my lips. She was indeed one of those 9 little girls from back then. That special token she held had saved her entire family from a great disaster years ago. It was the only reason the Hua family still existed in the upper realm today. As the pink glow of the token faded, she clutched it tightly and glared at my guards. Well, do you believe me now? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. She didn't want to reveal this identity. To her, being chosen as a vessel wasn't a badge of honor. It was a mark of a servant. I looked her over. She had a delicate face and a body that was developing in all the right places. Combined with that noble aura, she was actually a top-tier candidate for a furnace. Her water moon spirit body was legendary for its ability to cleanse impurities and speed up cultivation during dual practice. I was about to speak when Xiao Shisan started laughing like a lunatic. Haha, now you know, don't you? My sister is one of the Gu family's people. He looked at me with bloodshot eyes, his sanity slipping. I've changed my mind. I want you to cripple your own cultivation. Break both your arms and all 3 of your legs. Then kneel and beg for mercy. Maybe then I'll let you leave alive. Up on the platform, I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. I thought a child of destiny, like him, would have some spine. Instead, a little torture had turned him into a brainless, barking dog. Xinyue, stand down, I said, patting Lu Xinyue's skirt. She stood up hurriedly, her face flushing, but her eyes were full of terror. Son of God, please, this Xiao Shisan has nothing to do with us. I swear. Don't worry about it, I said, waving her off. Just stand where you belong. With a flash of movement, I appeared directly in front of Xiao Shisan. Lu Xinyue scurried back to stand behind my chair next to Lu Ruyan, acting like a loyal servant. Xiao Shisan's legs were shaking. I wasn't even releasing any pressure, but without his sword bone, he was nothing. He looked up at me, and I could see the inferiority complex eating him alive. I was taller, more handsome, and carried an aura of absolute royalty that he could never touch. You said you were going to cripple me? I asked softly. I reached out and patted his shoulder. He flinched as if my touch was red-hot iron. He couldn't even find his voice. What's wrong? Keck out your tongue. I leaned in closer. Weren't you just shouting about breaking my 3 legs? I slowly pulled my hand back and let my gaze drift down to his crotch. If you won't start, then I will. Before he could even blink, I struck. A sickening crunch echoed through the square. It was the kind of pain that bypasses the mind and goes straight to the soul. Xiao Shisan's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He collapsed, clutching himself, blood seeping through his fingers. He knew instantly. His root was gone. His future, his manhood, everything. He lost the last shred of his mind. He looked at Hua Yin'er, who was standing there frozen in shock. "Sister, you're a Gu family person," he screamed, his face contorted in a mask of agony. "Kill them. Avenge me. Avenge your ass," I muttered. I stepped forward and slammed my boot onto his face, grinding his head into the dirt like a cigarette butt. His muffled screams filled the air. The old woman behind Hua Yin'er finally spoke up. "Sir, we don't know why you don't fear the Gu family. But our request is simple. Let me and the young lady leave. We will pretend today never happened. We won't report this to the Gu family. As for that trash under your foot, do with him as you wish." Hua Yin'er nodded quickly. She was clearly done with Xiao Shisan. She realized he had only been using her. "You want to leave? That's easy," I said, shifting my weight to press harder on Xiao Shisan's skull. "But first, I'm interested in that token." I looked at the pink jade in her hand. "No, I can't give you this," she cried out. If she lost the token, her entire family would be slaughtered for losing a gift from the Gu family. "Relax. I'm not going to steal it," I said with a smirk. I flicked my finger. The token flew out of her hand, hovering in midair. Before anyone could react, I shot a bolt of energy into it and stepped directly in front of Hua Yin'er. I pressed my finger against her forehead. Her world exploded. In an instant, her consciousness was pulled into her own mental sea. In this spiritual realm, she stood completely exposed and vulnerable. I appeared above her, dressed in white robes, looking down at her like a god. She froze. Then, the realization hit her like a lightning bolt. Only one person could bypass the seals on that token and enter her soul so easily. Son of God," she whispered. She collapsed to her knees, her forehead hitting the spiritual floor. I didn't know it was you. Humph." I landed softly beside her. I took a moment to appreciate the view of my vessel before speaking in a cold, heavy tone. "Not bad. As my furnace, you didn't wait for me at home. Instead, you ran to the lower realms to save another man. The Hua family has a lot of nerve." "No, it's not like that." Her heart was racing so hard I could practically hear it. She knew I held the life and death of her entire clan in my hands. He and I, we barely knew each other. I only came to repay a debt. A debt. I knelt down and tilted her chin up with one finger. "You called him brother for a simple debt? Do you think I'm an idiot?" I gripped her chin harder, watching the red marks bloom on her pale skin. Tears welled up in Hua Yin'er's eyes. She started explaining herself, her voice trembling and thick with a sob. She told me it wasn't what I thought. A few days ago, her mount, a spirit crane named Lin He, had fallen mysteriously ill. It was on the verge of death when she ran into Xiao Shisan. He was out refining pills and gave her one that saved her mount's life. She wanted to pay him back, but he refused any reward. He told her he felt an instant connection with her. He suggested that instead of a debt, they should simply become sworn brother and sister. That was how it all started. Hua Yin'er raised her hand, terrified that I still didn't believe her. She made a solemn vow. She swore by the Hua family name that her body and soul belonged only to me. She insisted she had only met Xiao Shisan once. There was no physical contact, and even when they spoke, her protector was always standing between them. "If you don't believe me," she choked out, "I will kill this arrogant fool myself for disrespecting you." I looked down at her, my expression unreadable. I kept my grip on her chin, my voice cold. "Is that so? Can you really do it?" "Yes. I swear it's the truth." Her long eyelashes fluttered with fear. She knew one wrong word could bring total destruction to her clan. I finally let go of her chin. I let my hand slide down over her soft, white shoulder. "Fine. Let's see how you perform." With a single thought, I pulled our consciousness back from her mental sea. Hua Yin'er's eyes snapped open in the real world. Her protector was there, rushing to support her. "Miss, what happened? Just now." "Don't say another word," Hua Yin'er interrupted, shaking her head to clear the dizziness. "I'm fine." She stood up straight and looked at Xiao Shisan. He was lying on the ground, covered in lethal wounds, but still clinging to life. Her gaze hardened. She had made her choice. Xiao Shisan felt a sudden chill. He was in too much pain to turn his head, but he felt something slipping away from him. It felt like his destiny was vanishing. He gasped for air, forcing out a final plea for help. Lianer, save me. Kill this. He didn't finish. Hua Lianer stepped forward and looked down at him with eyes like ice. Shut up, she snapped. Who gave you the right to call me Lianer? She drew her sword without a second of hesitation and plunged it downward. A horrific scream tore through the air. The blade pierced through Xiao Shisan's left cheek and came out the right, sinking half a meter into the ground. Xiao Shisan's mind went blank. His world turned gray. He couldn't understand why the woman he admired was treating him with such cruelty. The blade had severed half his tongue. If it weren't for the powerful soul hidden inside him keeping him alive, he wouldn't even be able to make a sound. He rolled his eyes, looking at this woman who now felt like a complete stranger. Why? He wanted to scream the question. Why would a noble from the immortal families of the upper realm be so afraid of a son of God from a lower realm sect? Was she insane? Hua Lianer closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them and walked toward me. Under the stunned gaze of the entire Great Abyss Sword sect, she sank to her knees. Your servant, Lianer, greets the Son of God, she said, her voice soft and pitiful. A collective gasp echoed through the sect. The air felt like it had been sucked out of the clearing. Everyone was reeling. Just moments ago, they thought they were watching a hero being rescued by a beautiful maiden. Now, the maiden hadn't just abandoned the hero. She had defected to the villain and was kneeling submissively at his feet. Miss, you don't tell me. Her protector, the old woman, finally realized the truth. She knew the fate that awaited her lady. This wasn't just some local genius. This was the son of God from the Gu family. A man who could wipe the Hua family off the map with a single sentence. The old woman felt a chill run from her toes to her skull. She immediately moved to kneel beside her mistress, but I caught her with a cold glare. You want to kneel too? I asked. Yes, this old servant was blind. I hope. Enough. I waved her off. If you want to kneel, do it further away. You're an eyesore. The old woman looked relieved. She scrambled to a distant corner and thudded onto her knees, praying silently for her lady's safety. Now, only 3 people remained in the center of the clearing. I stood tall and imposing. Hua Lianer knelt with pleading eyes, and Xiao Shisan lay pinned to the dirt by a sword. Hua Lianer, I said, lifting one foot. Your servant is here, she replied instantly. She was smart. She knew exactly what I wanted. She crawled forward until she was right at my feet. I lowered my foot, resting it firmly on her delicate back. It felt natural. I'm very angry about today, I said quietly. Do you remember your identity? I remember. I remember. She braced herself, supporting the weight of my foot without a hint of resistance. I am the son of God's vessel. My body and soul belong entirely to you. I have never betrayed you, and I would never dare. Xiao Shisan's world shattered. His mind felt like it was collapsing. He remembered the day they met. He had actually used a trick to injure her crane just so he could save it and meet her. But he truly loved her. To him, she was a pure, untouchable goddess, a butterfly in a field of flowers. He had promised himself he would work hard, reach the upper realm, and marry her with honor. But now, he watched his goddess crawl through the dirt to act as a footstool for his enemy. She was calling herself a vessel. To this man, his goddess was nothing more than a toy. Bloody tears streamed from Xiao Shisan's eyes. He hated the unfairness of the heavens. He hated my arrival. But he was powerless. He could only watch as the woman he loved became a stepping stone for the man he hated. I saw the change in him. I pushed my foot down harder on Hua Lianer's shoulder, kicking her aside. Then, I reached down, pulled the sword out of Xiao Shisan's face, and tossed it onto the ground in front of him. I looked down at the pathetic wreck that was Xiao Shisan. He was on the verge of death, yet his eyes still burned with defiance. He clearly wasn't willing to accept his fate. Look at you, I said, my voice cold. Still acting tough? Since you're so stubborn, I'll let your own woman give you the final blow. I turned my gaze to Hua Lianer. She stood there, her eyes flickering with 1,000 different thoughts as she looked at the vibrating sword on the ground. She didn't hesitate for long. She was smart. She knew she had no choice if she wanted her family, or herself, to survive this day. She had to offer me her absolute loyalty. Slowly, she stood up. She reached down and gripped the hilt of the long sword I had tossed aside. Step by step, she walked toward Xiao Shisan. Lianer, no. Xiao Shisan's voice was a ragged sob. He didn't want to die, but more than that, he couldn't bear the thought of dying at the hands of the woman he loved. But Hua Lianer didn't stop. With a swift, cold motion, she plunged the blade directly into his abdomen. The sword tore through his dantian, his internal organs, and his meridians. The freezing energy attached to the blade turned his entire body into a block of frost. A crisp clink echoed through the air. Everything inside him shattered into icy dust. Xiao Shisan's consciousness began to fade. He was nothing more than an empty shell now, his eyes and mouth frozen wide in a silent scream, staring at the woman who had just killed him. Hua Lianer didn't look at the corpse again. She pulled the sword back, gripped the hilt, and dropped to one knee before me. "This slave has executed the one who dared to disrespect the Son of God," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "Good. You performed well." I leaned down and rubbed her head like a pet. She leaned into my touch, tilting her head up to show her submission. I felt a surge of satisfaction. This was the power of the Gu family. Even if she had known Xiao Shisan for years, she wouldn't have dared to disobey me today. If we weren't in public, I could have used this vessel right here, and she would have been more than happy to comply. It was almost funny. First, there was Lu Ruyan, the slave I'd recently taken, who happened to be the girl Xiao Shisan had a 5-year pact with. Now there was Hua Lianer, the woman he planned to pursue in the upper realm, who had been groomed by my parents to be my cultivation tool since she was a child. If I hadn't realized I was the villain in this story and taken action early, Xiao Shisan might have actually grown into a threat. I shook my head, clearing my mind. From now on, I would kill every child of destiny I encountered. As for their women, well, they had their uses. "Son of God," Hua Lianer whispered, her face flushed with a mix of shame and desire. "Shall I serve you now? My family has a residence in the lower realm. It's filled with rare flowers and exotic fruits, a true paradise. Serving you there would be quite special." She was being bold, desperate to secure her place by my side. I looked at her perfect face, her body like a flower ready to be plucked. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't interested. "You did well today," I said. "I'll reward you with a visit to your paradise. But first, I need to finish things here." I walked over to Xiao Shisan's body. To anyone else, he was dead. His organs were pulverized. There was no coming back. But I noticed something. The system hadn't sent a notification yet. That meant the kid still had a trump card. Just as I prepared to strike again, I felt a pulse in my mind. A white, jade-like egg appeared in my hand, a reward from my beginner's gift pack. The shell began to crack, and a brilliant white light erupted, tearing through the clouds. Golden rays pierced the sky, and a low roar shook the mountains. Was this some kind of ancient beast? When the light faded, a snow-white cat with a single tuft of red fur on its forehead appeared. Meow. The white cat blinked its large eyes, looking around curiously. When it saw me, it acted like it had found its mother. It leaped from the shell and dove straight into my arms. Meow, meow. It nuzzled my chin, its fur soft and warm. "All right, settle down." I laughed, rubbing its head. "Was that you talking to me from inside the egg? You said you eat souls? That you can finish him off for good?" The cat nodded with human-like intelligence. It patted my shoulder with a paw, jumped down, and trotted over to Xiao Shisan's body. Slurp. It sounded like someone finishing a milkshake. A strange, glowing soul was sucked right out of the corpse. But it wasn't Xiao Shisan. It was a withered, ancient old man. "So, there was a grandpa in the ring," I muttered, raising an eyebrow. I knew something was missing. Every child of destiny has a cheat, a bottle, a jade pendant, or a powerful soul living in their jewelry. Xiao Shisan was no exception. The old man's soul didn't panic. He stood there with calm dignity and folded his hands. "Young man, I have a word to say." "If you don't know if you should say it, then don't," I interrupted, waving him off. I'd spent enough time on this. I had a flower waiting for me at a private villa. I didn't have time for a lecture from a ghost. Fei Fei, he's all yours. The cat, Fei Fei, leaped with joy. Its body suddenly grew in size, and it opened its mouth wide, swallowing the old man's soul in one gulp. Munch, munch, munch. Halfway through, Fei Fei's face twisted in disgust. It looked like it had bitten into something rotten. Pooey. It spat out a tiny, transparent soul the size of a cockroach. It landed right at Hua Lianer's feet. She gasped, covering her mouth. Xiao Shi-san, you're still alive. The tiny soul was trembling, stripped of the old man's protection. He looked like a cornered insect. I'm not him. You have the wrong person. I'm not Xiao Shi-san. I laughed. Half an hour ago, this child of destiny was all pride and iron bones, refusing to kneel. Now, his body was gone, and his soul was a flickering candle. Even if he escaped, he'd never recover. It was time to end this. I needed to go enjoy the gift my parents had prepared for me. I picked up a small pebble from the ground. With a flick of my finger, I sent it flying toward the tiny, trembling soul. Xiao Shi-san was so weak now that even a light breeze could have ended him. The pebble hit its mark, and the last remnant of the hero vanished into nothingness. Xiao Shi-san's soul was a flickering shadow, far too weak to withstand even a casual strike. As my pebble flew through the air, his face twisted in pure, unadulterated terror. He tried to scramble back, but he was too slow. Crack! The soul shattered like glass, dissolving into tiny sparks before vanishing from this world forever. At that exact moment, a familiar mechanical chime rang in my ears. Asterisk ding. Congratulations, host, for slaying the child of destiny, Xiao Shi-san. You have earned 100 consecutive draws in the system shop. Congratulations. You have obtained all of Xiao Shi-san's possessions: heaven-swirling holy jade, blazing flame, profound sword, and blood-sect puppet technique. Personal items like common clothes, grass shoes, and undergarments can be recycled for system gold. Detection. Not only did the host kill Xiao Shi-san, but you also forced all his female leads and supporting characters to surrender. Triggering critical reward. Opportunity tracking mechanism. Open it, I commanded mentally. A list appeared before my eyes. Xiao Shi-san had 9 remaining opportunities he was destined to find. It was a step-by-step roadmap to the top: becoming the disciple of Lu Xinyue, seizing control of the Great Abyss Sword Sect, finding a holy weapon in the far north, and even discovering divine beast remains on the myriad race battlefield. Even a pig could become a god with these resources. I rubbed my chin, scanning the list before closing it. Most of these weren't due for a few years. I wasn't in a hurry. They weren't going anywhere. Right now, I had more pressing matters, specifically, the woman kneeling beside me. Divine Son, should we head back now? The Holy Lord of Lingxiao stepped forward, bowing deeply. He knew the day's business was concluded. You guys head back first, I said with a dismissive wave. I'm taking a day for myself. I had no intention of letting an audience watch my private business. The Holy Lord tensed up, looking worried. But Divine Son, your safety. I think you've heard enough about my trump cards, I interrupted. In this lower realm, the strongest people are only in the Emperor realm. Even in the upper realm, few can touch me. Go. Seeing he couldn't persuade me, the Holy Lord bowed and led his people away. I turned my gaze toward Lu Xinyue and tossed a jade token at her feet. That's a Lingxiao token, I told her. I'll give you 3 days to settle everything with the Great Abyss Sword Sect. After that, have Lu Rian bring you to my palace to report. Understood. This servant understands, Lu Xinyue whispered, picking up the token with trembling hands. She hurried off to the center of the plaza to handle the transition. That left only Hua Liener and her protector. I reached down, grabbed Hua Liener's hand, and pulled her up into my arms. I let my hand wander, a smirk playing on my lips. Let's go. Take me to that paradise of yours. We have some interesting things to do. Hua Liener shook violently, her face flushing a deep crimson. Being this close to a man seemed to take her breath away. Yes, Divine Son, this servant will lead the way. Miss, her protector, an old woman named you, called out from a distance. I shot her a cold look. Old you froze, shivering as if she'd been dropped into an ice cellar. No, nothing. I just wanted to tell the miss that I'll return to the family first. I'll tell them the good news. That you've met the divine son and will be serving him. Go on, then, I said impatiently. I wasn't interested in anything else right now. We headed to the Valley of 100 Flowers. It was known as one of the most beautiful yet dangerous places in this realm. Despite the name, there weren't just 100 flowers. There were tens of thousands, and many had gained sentience. As we landed near a small, thatched hut, the air was filled with the chirping voices of flower spirits. Why hasn't Sister Hua come back yet? She said she'd be right back. I have a bad feeling. Bah, you're 500 years old. Quit calling her sister. When we touched down, the spirits saw Hua Lianer being held by a man, looking shy and submissive. They went wild. Hua Lianer had a water-moon spirit body, which made these spirits naturally adore her. Let go of Sister Hua. Bad man. We'll save you. The flowers bloomed, revealing the phantom figures of beautiful young women. They surrounded us, looking ready for a fight. Wait, don't, Hua Lianer cried out. She had spent years befriending these spirits. She knew all too well that if they annoyed me, I could wipe out the entire valley with a single sentence. Relax, I'm not that petty, I said, though I didn't stop my hands from wandering. I gave her a firm squeeze, causing a soft moan to escape her lips. She bit her lower lip, trying to act normal while telling the spirits she was fine. The flower spirits looked at each other, confused, as they watched their sister being led into the hut by a stranger. Inside, the air was thick with a fragrance so potent it could extend a mortal's life by years. Even for me, it felt refreshing, making my energy flow faster. Hua Lianer stood by my side, her ears burning red. She kept her head down, fidgeting with the hem of her dress. Divine Son, do we start now? Of course, I laughed, spreading my arms. Undress me first. Oh, and your hair is a bit long. You should pin it up. While I was enjoying my prize, a massive commotion was breaking out on the other side of the world at the auspicious god cult. Lord Cult Leader, I saw it with my own eyes, the second elder shouted, his voice trembling with excitement. A legendary auspicious beast appeared at the Great Abyss Sword Sect. The sky changed for millions of miles. It's real. He turned to the young man sitting next to the leader, the young cult leader, Ouyang Qingyun. Young master, you were born with the purple Kirin vision. If you can obtain this beast, our cult's future will be limitless. Ouyang Qingyun slammed his hand on the table, his breath hitching. Is the legend true? Is the beast really there? Absolutely. The elder nodded, though his expression dimmed slightly. However, the Great Abyss Sword Sect just announced they have become a subsidiary of the Lingxiao Holy Land. The news of the Great Abyss Sword Sect becoming a subsidiary of the Lingxiao Holy Land was enough to make most people back off. Even for a power like us, the auspicious god cult, facing the Holy Land head-on wasn't ideal. But Ouyang Qingyun couldn't contain his excitement. He didn't care about holy lands or reputations anymore. In his mind, that auspicious beast already belonged to him. He stood up, his green robes fluttering despite the lack of wind. He was handsome, with skin like jade and an extraordinary aura. He turned to his father, his eyes burning with ambition. Father, we can't delay this. I suggest I lead a team to the Great Abyss Sword Sect immediately to bring that beast back. Our cult must have it, no matter the cost. His father, Ouyang Wanli, watched him with a doting expression. He understood his son's impatience. Ever since Ouyang Qingyun was born, he had been the darling of heaven. He was the kind of person who could just open his mouth and a top-tier pill would fall from the sky into it. If he practiced, he'd fall into a deep state of enlightenment instantly. Even if he tripped while walking, it was usually because a rare treasure had gotten in his way, practically begging to be picked up. According to our records, he was exactly like our founding ancestor. He was a chosen one, destined to be the strongest in the world. Back then, our ancestor failed to reach the very peak of cultivation for one reason. He couldn't find an auspicious beast to match his luck. If he had, our cult wouldn't be struggling in the lower realms today. Father, Ouyang Qingyun pressed when his father remained silent. Should I gather the men now? Ouyang Wanli snapped out of his thoughts. He didn't scold his son's boldness. Instead, he spoke softly. Wait, the Lingxiao Holy Land is low-key, but they have deep connections to the upper realm. We need to be prepared. Prepared? You mean, wait until after tomorrow. Ouyang Qingyun asked, his face straightening. Exactly. Ouyang Wanli let a bit of his peak level pressure leak out, making the entire hall hum and vibrate. Tomorrow, you will lead the way. We won't just go to the sword sect. We'll go straight to the Lingxiao Holy Land. Whoever tries to stop you, kill them. While they were plotting, 2 days passed in the outside world. Everything seemed quiet, though the Xiao family in Black Cloud City had vanished overnight. Rumor had it their young master had offended someone he shouldn't have, leading to their total destruction. Back in the Valley of 100 Flowers, I let out a long breath. I sat on the edge of the bed, leaning against the wall as I circulated the massive amount of spiritual energy in my body. These past 2 days of constant cultivation with Hualiener had been incredibly rewarding. I had to admit, the women chosen for the Gu family really were something else. Between absorbing Xiao Shisan's sword bone and the constant flow of energy from Hualiener's watermoon body, my internal reserves were overflowing. The moment I stopped to focus, I heard a crisp pop inside my mind. My cultivation exploded. In the lower realms, reaching the king realm meant you were a powerhouse, someone who could start their own sect. Usually, it took years of accumulation to break through each stage. But for me, it was as easy as drinking water. King realm first layer, third layer, seventh layer. In just 2 days, I had jumped straight to the 7th layer of the king realm. Not only that, but my meridians were glowing with a faint blue light. That was the effect of Hualiener's physique. It gave her a boost, but for me, it acted like a constant cleanser, washing my meridians over and over. My cultivation speed was now nearly double what it used to be, and it was a permanent buff. Divine Sun, Hualiener murmured as she woke up. Her long, pale legs were mostly exposed, and her jade-like feet curled nervously. Her face was flushed, and I could still see the faint traces of tears. She forced her aching body upright, looking at me timidly. My sisters collect the morning dew in the valley. They extract the purest part to make a celestial nectar. I want to get some for you to taste. I nodded. I was very satisfied with her performance. She got up and carefully put on her scattered clothes before slipping out of the room. She knew her place now. Since she couldn't change her fate, she was determined to serve me well. Besides, judging by the way her knees trembled as she walked, the last 2 days had left an impression she wouldn't soon forget. Once she was gone, I turned my attention to my system rewards. Killing a child of destiny like Xiao Shisan had yielded a massive haul. It was time to see what I'd won. Meow? Fei, the auspicious beast, suddenly appeared and jumped into my arms, rubbing its head against my chest. It had spent the last 2 days digesting the soul it had swallowed. It looked the same, but I could feel it was much stronger. Strangely, it didn't have a specific cultivation level I could read. But any creature that could rip out and eat a soul was clearly beyond the ordinary. All right, go play outside for a bit, I said, patting the cat's head. Fei let out a little chirp and trotted out the door. I closed my eyes and communicated with the system. Everything in my storage space appeared before me. Let's see what we have. Heaven-swirling jade pendant. It can house spirits and nourish souls. Useless to me. System, exchange it for gold coins. Ding. Heaven-swirling jade pendant exchange for 230 system coins. I paused. Only 230? With a name that grand, I expected more. Maybe the prices in the shop were just really low? I opened the villain's exclusive shop to check. Row after row of legendary treasures, pills, and weapons appeared. Even as the divine son of the Gu family, I felt my heart race. The items were incredible, but they all shared one very obvious problem. Everything in the shop was expensive. I mean, ridiculously expensive. Take the rebirth pill, for example. If I swallowed it, I'd be granted a second life. Even if I suffered a violent death, I'd be resurrected 3 days later with 99% of my cultivation restored. I had never even heard of such a miraculous pill in the real world. But the price was a staggering 10,000 system coins. The heaven-swirling jade pendant I just sold only gave me 230. I fought the urge to scream at the system for being a total ripoff. I closed the shop and opened my inventory to look at the rest of the loot I'd stripped from Xiao Shisan. First, the flame mantra. It was garbage. Even the lowest-ranking servants in the Gu family practiced better techniques than this. I recycled it immediately. Ding. Recycled successfully. 180 system coins. Next, the Black Heavy Sword. It was just a heavy slab of iron mixed with some low-grade profound steel. More trash. Ding. Recycled successfully. 310 system coins. I kept going, recycling every single item Xiao Shisan had owned. I even recycled his spare underwear just to squeeze out every bit of value. By the time I was finished, I had barely scraped together 3,625 coins. What a pauper. I shook my head in disappointment. Xiao Shisan was supposed to be a child of destiny, yet his entire life's work was only worth a few $1,000. Then again, it made sense. I had killed him in the starting village phase of his journey. He hadn't had time to find the real treasures yet. I turned my attention to the scrolls detailing Xiao Shisan's future opportunities, the lucky breaks he was supposed to have. Two of them caught my eye. The first was in the North Pole lands, a Saint Spirit flame. My heart skipped a beat. Even in the upper realm, these flames were incredibly rare. Great families would go to war over one. If I remembered correctly, the Saint Spirit flame was ranked in the top 10 of all exotic fires. Since I was already in the lower realm, there was no way I was letting that slip through my fingers. The second opportunity was in the Hidden God Mountains. In 2 years, Xiao Shisan was destined to inherit the legacy of a powerful master. Usually, I wouldn't care about legacies. No master could be stronger than my own father and mother. But the identity of this master changed everything. He was a member of the Longevity Gu family from the upper realm. My own family. I rubbed my chin, a smirk forming on my lips. This was getting interesting. As a villain, my fate was becoming intertwined with these so-called heroes in the most unexpected ways. My villain meter was definitely redlining now. I took a deep breath. It was time for the main event. The system had rewarded me with a 100-draw raffle for killing the Child of Destiny. The system warned me the range was huge. I could get God-tier items or absolute junk. I couldn't wait any longer. System, start the 100-draw. I commanded. Preparing draw. Congratulations. You received 1 bottle of fart pills, white. Congratulations. You received 10,000 cat treats, green. Congratulations. You received a 3-piece bedding set, great. The rewards kept popping up, and I felt a vain throb in my forehead. What was this garbage? Cat treats? A bedsheet? I was the divine son of the Gu family. I didn't need household linens. Congratulations. You received 1 pair of unknown panties, red. Suddenly, a pair of pink, fragrant silk underwear fluttered down from thin air and landed right on my head. I ripped them off, my face turning red with rage. You useless piece of junk, I roared at the system. Give me something I can actually use. You're the worst system I've ever seen. Maybe the system heard my anger, or maybe it just felt guilty for giving me laundry. On the very last draw, a golden light blinded me. Congratulations. You received 1 Dao fruit, gold. My anger evaporated instantly. A Dao fruit? A legendary item that allowed a person to instantly master a great Dao? In the lower realm, people couldn't even touch the concept of a Dao. You had to reach the void-shattering realm and touch the threshold of the Quasi-Emperor stage just to get a glimpse of it. To break through from Quasi-Emperor to Great Emperor, you needed to form your own Dao. That single requirement had blocked countless geniuses for eternity. This fruit could literally create a Great Emperor. If this appeared in the upper realm, it would start a bloodbath that would last for centuries. The fruit floated before me, translucent and shimmering with a mysterious light. Its shape shifted constantly, one moment a gemstone, the next a cloud of chaotic mist. Its surface was covered in ancient, swirling patterns that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe. I didn't hesitate. I swallowed it whole. Treasures are only safe when they're in your stomach. The fruit melted instantly. A cool sensation washed through my limbs and meridians. For the first time, I entered a state of pure enlightenment. I felt like I was drifting through the vastness of heaven and earth, bathing in the essence of the world itself. I don't know how much time passed, but when I opened my eyes, everything was clear. I looked at my hands and clenched my fists. I had mastered the Tao of Strength. I was only in the King realm, yet I possessed a power that even quasi-emperors struggled to obtain. It defied all logic. My cultivation jumped from the 7th stage of the King realm to the very peak. I was one step away from the Emperor realm. The only reason I didn't break through immediately was because the fruit provided comprehension, not raw energy. Knock, knock, knock. A soft tapping came from the door. Come in, I said. Hualiener pushed the door open timidly. She was cupping her hands together in front of her chest, as if she were carrying something incredibly fragile. She walked over to the bed, climbed up, and knelt beside me. Divine Son, she whispered, the nectar of jade leaves is ready. My sisters and I have been collecting this for a long time. Please, taste it. I looked at the small pool of clear liquid held in her palms. I was confused. Don't you have a cup? Why are you holding it with your hands? You don't understand, Divine Son, she explained patiently. Once this nectar is prepared, no vessel can hold it. It must be consumed immediately. Because of my special constitution, my hands can temporarily preserve its essence so you get the full effect. I see, I murmured, nodding. Let me serve you then. She leaned in close, her body pressing near mine. She brought her cupped hands to my lips. Her slender fingers brushed against my mouth as she tilted her palms, letting the nectar flow into my throat. I gulped it down. An incredibly refreshing sensation surged through my body. It was a level of comfort I couldn't put into words. Every bit of fatigue from the past few days vanished instantly. My mind felt sharper than ever, like a man who hadn't slept in years finally getting the perfect rest. Not bad, I praised. I could feel my cultivation nudge forward again. I was still at the peak of the king realm, but the barrier to the emperor realm was starting to crack. I looked at her, wanting more. That was excellent. Is there any left? No, she whispered. That was all of it. Hualiener's hands remained cupped near my lips. She watched me with a soft, lingering gaze. To make more, the flower demon sisters would need to toil for years, she explained. I honestly don't know when the next batch will be ready. You have incredible fortune, Divine Son. You arrived just as we finished a fresh harvest of the nectar of jade leaves. That's a pity, I muttered. I was genuinely disappointed to hear there wasn't more. It was a rare treasure, and I hated leaving a job half-finished. However, my eyes drifted to her delicate hands. I noticed crystal-clear droplets of the nectar still clinging to her skin, trickling slowly down her slender arms. It was too precious to waste. Since it was so rare, I decided I wouldn't let a single drop go to the ground. I'll just have to finish every last bit then, I said. I reached out, grabbed Hualiener's arm, and pulled her firmly into my lap. Divine Son, that's not the nectar anymore, she gasped, her face flushing a deep crimson. Another half-day passed before I finally emerged from seclusion. I felt satisfied, energized, and completely refreshed. I left the Valley of 100 Flowers alone. Hualiener didn't follow me. She was utterly exhausted, her physical strength spent, and she needed to sleep. She promised she would head to the Lingxiao sacred grounds the moment she recovered. As I soared high above the valley, I couldn't help but marvel at how easy cultivation had become. In just a few days, I had nearly broken through a major realm. More importantly, I had gained the Tao of Strength. I estimated that with the power of this Tao alone, I could now kill enemies an entire realm above me. The Tao of Strength was a controversial path among the 3,000 Taoists. Some legends claimed its upper limit was the highest of all, that pure strength could shatter any law. Others argued it was mediocre, claiming those who mastered it rarely achieved true greatness. I didn't care about the rumors. I was satisfied. What I needed now was to hunt more children of destiny and pull more rewards from the system. If I could stack multiple Daos before reaching the Emperor realm, my power would be incomparable to any ordinary emperor. I looked toward the far north, considering my next move. I knew there was a primordial flame hidden in the frozen wastes of the North Ridge. It was a long journey. Going there and subduing the flame would take at least a week. To be honest, I'd rather spend that week hunting another child of destiny. A primordial flame was good, but the system rewards for killing a protagonist were on a different level. Still, children of destiny didn't just grow on trees like wild dogs. I decided I might as well go get the flame. Just as I was about to move, the communication jade at my waist vibrated. It was a message from the Holy Lord of the Lingxiao sacred ground. The Fortune God sect from the northern region has arrived unexpectedly. The Holy Lord's voice echoed in my mind. They claim they are willing to pay any price to trade for our auspicious beast. They didn't come with good intentions, Divine Son. What are your orders? I let out a cold laugh. An auspicious beast? I knew exactly what they were after. They wanted my spirit beast, Fei Fei. Someone actually had the nerve to target my property. The trip to the North Ridge would have to wait. Come out, Fei Fei, I said. Since someone is so interested in you, we should go greet them with some sincerity. Fei Fei hopped onto my shoulder, tilting its head in confusion. It looked at me with big, innocent eyes, but I knew better. Someone was about to have a very bad day. The Lingxiao sacred ground was one of the most powerful forces in the Fushui world. When I arrived, the atmosphere was different. Usually, the disciples were focused on their quiet cultivation, but today, the place was buzzing with excitement and noise. What's going on? I asked, grabbing a passing elder by the shoulder. The elder looked ready to snap at whoever had stopped him, but when he saw my face, his anger vanished instantly. His legs began to shake. Divine Son, you're back. Stop stuttering. Tell me what's happening, I demanded. He quickly explained the situation. A short while ago, the Fortune God sect had arrived with massive fanfare. They had brought almost their entire sect's treasury with them. Leading the group was their young sect master, Ouyang Qinggan, a man said to be born under a lucky star, a literal darling of fortune. Their goal was clear. They wanted the beast that had caused the divine phenomenon at the Mitian Sword sect a few days ago. The Fortune God sect wasn't as strong as us, so they didn't dare use force. Instead, they brought incredibly expensive gifts, acting like they wanted a fair trade. However, their attitude was strangely firm, as if they held a hidden trump card. They claimed that if we gave them the beast, they would even become a subsidiary of our sacred ground. That was why the Holy Lord had summoned me. But the reason the sect was so rowdy right now was because of what happened after Ouyang Qinggan arrived. Within just half a day, this lucky brat had discovered a hidden treasure right here on our own mountain. A treasure so significant that even the Holy Lord couldn't ignore it. It was ridiculous. Ouyang Qinggan had been walking to the guest quarters, bored out of his mind. He aimlessly kicked a pebble on the side of the road. That pebble hit a tree. The tree fell over, causing a chain reaction that eventually smashed a massive boulder. When the boulder cracked open, it revealed a hidden cave entrance. The Lingxiao sacred ground had been established since the beginning of the Fushui world. We had been here for countless ages, yet no one had ever found this cave. The energy fluctuations coming from inside were ancient and powerful. The rumors were already spreading that it contained the lost treasury of our first Holy Lord. Interesting. Very interesting, I whispered, feeling a surge of excitement. I didn't care about the treasure. I cared about Ouyang Qinggan, a man who kicks a rock and finds a primordial treasury. That wasn't just luck. He was almost certainly a child of destiny, and likely a much more powerful one than Xiao Shisan. I made my way to the Holy Lord's peak. The crowds thinned out here, as only core disciples were allowed near the summit. Two groups were standing opposite each other. They weren't fighting yet. Instead, they were locked in a tense negotiation. Holy Lord, our sect has come with the utmost sincerity, a white-haired old man from the Fortune God sect was saying. He was squinting, his voice full of feigned earnestness. My young master has even uncovered a hidden treasure for your sect by pure accident. Surely, you can reconsider the matter of the auspicious beast now? His point was clear. They had brought gifts, and they had gifted us a secret cave. In his mind, we owed them. The Holy Lord simply shook his head. I am truly grateful to young Master Ouyang for finding the cave. However, the beast is not mine to give. It belongs to our Divine Son. You will have to wait for him to arrive and speak with him yourself. But the old man looked anxious. He knew that the longer this dragged on, the more likely things were to go wrong. You are the Holy Lord of this sect. Surely you. He stopped mid-sentence as I stepped into the clearing. All eyes turned toward me. I smiled, petting Fei Fei on my shoulder. The hunt was on. A Divine Son is just a candidate for Holy Lord, at best, the white-haired elder from the Fortune God sect muttered. He looked at our Holy Lord with a mix of frustration and arrogance. Everything in this sect is decided by you. Why wait for some kid to return? The Holy Lord, Ling Xiao, didn't even look up. He strolled over to a stone table, sat down, and pulled a tea set out of thin air. He began to brew a pot with practiced ease. You shouldn't say such things. If you have the patience to wait, come have a cup of tea. If not, the exit is behind you. The Fortune God sect members looked like they had just swallowed flies. They were furious, but hitting the Holy Lord's indifference felt like punching a cloud of cotton. Finally, Ouyang Gun spoke up. He was the young master, the one I had my eye on. He stepped forward with a calm, practiced grace, picked up a teacup, and drained it in one go. Fine tea. I will wait for the divine son to arrive. I'm confident he will agree to our deal. Is that so? We'll see. Ling Xiao replied, his eyes half closed. In reality, with our sect's power, the Holy Lord didn't need to be this polite. He could have kicked them out minutes ago, but he was an old fox. He knew this involved my personal interests, and he wasn't about to overstep his bounds by making a decision for me. So he just kept pouring tea. The pot was nearly empty when I finally climbed the peak. I strolled into the clearing, casual and relaxed. The moment I appeared, every member of the Ling Xiao Holy Land, including the Holy Lord himself, stood up instantly. They bowed deeply. Welcome back, Divine Son, they said in unison. The Fortune God sect group stared in total shock. A Holy Lord bowing to a disciple? It felt like the world had turned upside down. I didn't give them a second glance. My eyes were locked on Ouyang Gun. I walked around him, inspecting him from head to toe, clicking my tongue in appreciation. Good. Very good. I like this. As I stared, a transparent panel appeared before my eyes, one only I could see. Name, Ouyang Gun. Status, Young Master of the Fortune God Sect. Level, 6th layer of the Profound Heaven Realm. Physique, Red Fortune Dao Body. Destiny, Child of Fortune. Recent activity, came to trade for the auspicious beast. Accidentally discovered a hidden cave left by the first Holy Lord. I frowned. That was it. The recent activity section was only 2 lines long. Usually, the system gave me a full roadmap of their future. System, what's going on? I asked mentally. Where's the rest of his path? Because of the host's auspicious beast, Fei, the timeline has deviated, the system replied. The future has become unpredictable. Any timeline that intersects with the host can no longer be read. I understood immediately. Usually, a child of destiny like Xiao Shisan had a set path that I could just read and exploit. But because I was actively changing the world, the future was no longer written in stone. I was the one holding the pen now. Regardless, my role as the villain was confirmed. I didn't even have to look for trouble. The children of destiny were literally falling from the sky into my lap. Because of Fei, this Ouyang Gun would eventually try to kill me to claim his treasure. Ouyang Gun was starting to look extremely uncomfortable. My gaze was intense, like I was peeling back his skin to see his soul. He instinctively crossed his arms and stepped back. Are you the Divine Son? Why are you staring at me like that? Oh, it's nothing, I said dismissively, though my eyes never left him. I wasn't going to let him leave. I was already imagining what kind of loot I'd get from him. A red Fortune Dao body sounded way more valuable than a basic flame physique. His luck was so high he found a hidden treasury just by walking through the door. I wanted that. Please, show some respect, Ouyang Gun stammered. He retreated until he was hiding behind his sect's great elder. Elder, Ouyang whispered, his voice trembling. This Divine Son, he gives me a very bad feeling. The great elder's face was grim. I don't know what he's thinking, but his cultivation is a total mystery. I'm at the 9th layer of the Emperor realm, and I can't see through him at all. Be careful. He didn't realize that I wasn't using a cloaking treasure. Ever since I mastered the Tao of Reason, I was draped in the aura of the great Tao itself. To someone who hadn't touched that level, I looked like an endless abyss. I sat down at the stone table and tapped my fingers against the surface. I gave them a thin smile. I heard you're a lucky guy. You've been here less than half a day and you already found a secret cave our sect missed for centuries. I wouldn't call it luck, Ouyang Gun replied cautiously. It was a coincidence. And since it belongs to your sect, we wouldn't dream of touching it. We only want the beast. The beast? I let out a cold laugh. A righteous person might need a reason to kill. I didn't. I was the villain, and I wasn't about to let this fat duck fly away. Ling Tian, I said softly. "Your servant is here," the Holy Lord replied instantly. "You know what to do." The Holy Lord nodded. He activated his command token, and in a heartbeat, the atmosphere changed. Dozens of powerful experts from our sect descended from the clouds, surrounding the Fortune God sect group in a tight circle. "What is the meaning of this?" the Great Elder shouted, his face turning pale. Crack! I slammed my hand down, shattering the stone table into dust. I stood up, looking at them with pure disdain. "What's the meaning? I want to know what gave garbage like you the right to think you could negotiate with me. You're looking for death." I looked at Ling Tian. "Take them all. Throw them in the deepest dungeon. I want to interrogate them personally. I suspect they're spies from a rival sect." "Yes, Divine Son." The experts moved at once. The sky darkened as their combined power suppressed the area. It was the peak of strength in the lower realm, and it was terrifying. "Wait! Stop!" the Great Elder screamed. He stood in front of Ouyang Qingyan, holding a small, glowing jade seal above his head. "We came with sincerity. We even brought our sect's greatest treasure as a gift. Don't misunderstand." The Holy Lord froze in midair. He stared at the seal, his eyes widening. He raised a hand to signal our men to hold their positions. "The heaven-flipping seal? Your leader actually let you bring that?" I arched an eyebrow. "The heaven-flipping seal?" Now that sounded like a proper loot drop. "Wait a second," I called out, stopping the execution. "So, you're saying you aren't spies? You actually intend to trade that seal for my pet?" "Yes, exactly." The Great Elder wiped the sweat from his forehead, nodding frantically. "We aren't spies. This is the heaven-flipping seal, the ultimate treasure of the Fortune God sect. I heard that the heaven-flipping seal was one of the few innate treasures in the entire Fushui realm, capable of literally turning the world upside down." "Is that so?" I asked, leaning back. "Then let me have a look." The Great Elder hesitated. He glanced at the young leader beside him, Ouyang Qingyun. Ouyang Qingyun gave a nearly imperceptible nod. He whispered a secret transmission to the elder, telling him that the seal had already recognized him as its master. Even if I looked at it, I couldn't steal it. With his leader's permission, the Great Elder tossed the seal into the air. It flew toward me and landed perfectly in my palm. The moment I touched it, a wave of cold energy rushed through my body. I could feel the ancient, innate power swirling around the jade. I toyed with the seal, turning it over in my hand with interest. Suddenly, a notification chimed in my ear. Asterisk ding. Innate treasure detected. Heaven-flipping seal. Recycle value, 9,999 gold coins. Would you like to recycle? Asterisk. I blinked. The system's recycling function was actually triggering. But wait, this thing still had someone else's soul mark on it. It didn't belong to me yet. Could I still recycle it? As if sensing my confusion, the system explained. The Heavenly Fate Sun recycling system could recycle anything belonging to a child of fortune. Whether I looted it from their corpse or they voluntarily gave it to me, I could process it instantly. I smirked. This was basically a cheat code. Ouyang Qingyun had technically given it to me to inspect. In the system's eyes, that counted as a gift. I didn't hesitate. Killing that genius Xiao Shursan had only given me 3,000 coins. Now, nearly 10,000 were sitting in my palm. I wasn't about to say no to that. Asterisk ding. Congratulations, host. You have received 9,999 mall coins. Asterisk. The seal vanished from my hand. At that exact moment, Ouyang Qingyun let out a choked gasp and sprayed a mouthful of blood across the floor. He looked up at me, his eyes wide with pure terror and disbelief. My connection to the seal? It's gone, he gasped. Young master, what happened? The Great Elder rushed to support him, his face pale with worry. The seal? Ouyang Qingyun stammered, blood dripping from his chin. The soul mark is gone. I can't feel it anymore. The Great Elder froze. He couldn't believe his ears. The heaven-flipping seal was a foundation treasure of the Fortune God sect, passed down through generations. Even their current leader, a peak Emperor Realm expert, couldn't fully harness its power. How could the connection just snap? He looked at my hand. When he saw my palm was completely empty, his eyes shrank to pinpricks. He pointed a trembling finger at me. Divine Son, our seal, where is it? He knew he was the one who threw it to me. If the sect's greatest treasure was lost because of him, he was a dead man. I didn't even look at him. I calmly poured myself a fresh cup of tea and took a slow sip. Seal? What seal are you talking about? You were going to trade it for my pet, right? I asked, looking puzzled. Well, take it out then. Let me see it. Don't be shy like a little girl. The great elder looked like he was about to have a heart attack. He realized right then that I wasn't just a powerful cultivator. I was a daylight robber. I had swallowed their treasure and was now pretending I'd never seen it. Ouyang Qingyun stepped forward, wiping the blood from his mouth. He forced his face back into a mask of politeness, though his voice wavered. Divine Son, please, stop joking. Our elder personally handed the seal to you. Everyone here saw it. I waved my hand, cutting him off. Watch your mouth. I never touched your seal. Who saw it? Did you see it, Holy Lord? The Holy Lord of Lingxiao didn't skip a beat. Divine Son, I saw no such thing. If you ask me, the Fortune God sect is trying to scam us. It's quite pathetic, really. I turned my gaze to the other elders of the Holy Land. What about you? You're all-powerful experts with sharp eyes. You wouldn't miss something like that, would you? The elders shook their heads so hard I thought their necks might snap. One of them even closed his eyes tight, claiming he had been practicing a blind meditation for 100 years and couldn't see anything at all. They knew exactly whose side they were on. I spread my hands and looked at Ouyang Qingyun. See? Nobody saw your seal. Maybe you left it at home. Or maybe you dropped it in the latrine on your way here. You should go back and check the toilets. The elders nodded in agreement, their faces full of mock concern. Ouyang Qingyun's face turned a deep shade of purple. He was suffocating on his own rage. He never expected a top-tier Holy Land to act like a gang of common thugs. Usually, powerful people cared about their reputation. They were supposed to smile to your face even while stabbing your back. But I was just stabbing him in broad daylight and telling him it was raining. The mental shock combined with the soul backlash from losing the seal was too much. His aura began to spiral out of control. Young master, stay calm, the great elder hissed, trying to pull him back. This is their territory. We can't start a fight here. But just as he reached out, Ouyang Qingyun's chaotic energy suddenly pulled inward. A massive whirlpool of spiritual qi formed above his head, surging into his body. In an instant, he broke through. He hit the 7th level of the profound heaven realm. The sheer frustration had actually shattered his bottleneck. The Fortune God sect disciples looked relieved. Their leader was a true monster of talent. But the Holy Lord and the local elders looked worried. They knew that after today, there was no going back. I hadn't just stolen a treasure, I had started a war. This was the kind of conflict that couldn't be resolved with a handshake. The Fortune God sect had a genius like Ouyang Qingyun, a man who broke through his limits just by getting angry. If I let him leave, he would eventually become a nightmare for me. The Holy Lord of Lingxiao was already thinking the same thing. I could see it in his eyes. He was waiting for my signal to wipe these uninvited guests off the face of the earth. But I wasn't like him. I wasn't worried. In fact, I was happier than the Fortune God sect members themselves. I stood up, my eyes glowing with a predatory light. I walked toward Ouyang Qingyun, step by step. Haha, good, I laughed. They really do call you the Son of Heaven for a reason. To break through under such pressure, truly marvelous. As I approached, the elders of Lingxiao parted like the Red Sea. The Holy Lord and the Great Elder fell in line behind me, acting as my left and right guards. I stopped right in front of Ouyang Qingyun. What are you doing? He stammered. He had probably never been stared at like this by another man. My gaze was intense, hungry, and completely stripped of any politeness. He actually shivered. He took a shaky breath, trying to compose himself. That heaven-turning seal, he muttered, his voice trembling. Forget it. I don't want it back. Maybe I really did forget to bring it. I'll look for it when I get home. He was terrified. But I wasn't even listening to his pathetic excuses. All I could think about was the lamb standing in front of me. This was the red fortune body. It was terrifyingly beautiful. Compared to the trashy flame physique Xiao Shursen had, this was the difference between heaven and mud. I didn't even care about the Great Abyss sword sect anymore. I had treated Xiao Shursan's bone like mere fertilizer, but Ouyang Qingyun? I was genuinely greedy for what he had. Who wouldn't want to be the luckiest man alive? To have an epiphany every time you trip over a rock. To find ancient treasures just by visiting a neighbor? I wiped the greed from my eyes and replaced it with a wicked smile. I reached out and slapped Ouyang Qingyun heavily on the shoulder. I have no idea what you're talking about with this seal business, I said smoothly. However, if your sect can show me some real sincerity, I might actually consider trading the auspicious beast to you. Are you serious? Ouyang Qingyun's spirit returned instantly. His eyes lit up like a starving soldier seeing a feast. He wanted that beast more than anything in the world. I knew that even if I asked for his entire sect in exchange, he and his father would probably agree without blinking. With that beast, he was guaranteed to become an emperor. Of course, I replied. I am the son of God of Lingxiao. Why would I lie? Excellent. Then the gifts we brought today. Young master, the great elder of the fortune god sect cut him off, whispering urgently into his ear. This man is too cunning. He just tricked us out of a divine seal. We have to be careful. Ouyang Qingyun stiffened. He looked at his elder, who nodded grimly. It was a reality check. He took a step back, trying to sound calm and professional. Does your excellency have something specific in mind for the trade? He asked. Whatever our sect owns, I can promise it to you on behalf of my father. He didn't care about the seal anymore. Nothing mattered except the beast. Meow. A sudden sound drew everyone's attention. A small, white, fluffy head poked out from my robes. Fei Fei climbed up and perched on my shoulder, licking her paws and brushing her soft tail against my ear. To the others, she looked like a common pet. They hadn't seen her birth. But Ouyang Qingyun's pupils shrunk to pinpricks. His jaw dropped so low it looked like he could swallow an egg. A bit of drool actually escaped the corner of his mouth. It's the auspicious beast, he shrieked. He didn't need proof. Being a man of red fortune himself, he felt a spiritual resonance the moment she appeared. He was 100% certain. Young master, is that truly it? The great elder whispered, his old eyes wide. He had only seen the omens in the sky. He didn't know what the creature actually looked like. I'm certain. Our sect is going to soar. Ouyang Qingyun was so excited tears were welling up. He truly believed the heavens were favoring him. First, he got a breakthrough, and now the beast was right in front of his face. He felt like the entire world was finally his for the taking. Don't start soaring just yet, I said, my voice like a bucket of cold water. It didn't dampen his fire at all. His breathing was shallow and fast. Son of God, you clearly don't understand what you have. You're raising a divine creature like a common house cat. It's a waste of heaven's gifts. If you give her to me, I will reach the peak of this world. And when I do, you will be the one I thank the most. He stepped closer, his face flushed. I can even swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. When I become the supreme ruler, I will make you my first general. You will be above tens of thousands, second only to me. You will have the respect of everyone in the 9 heavens and 10 lands. He was lost in his own delusion. He was convinced that I couldn't use the beast's potential, but he could. He believed his special physique could feed the beast with fortune, and within 100 years, the beast would reach the emperor realm. Then, the beast would feed him back, making him an emperor too. 2 emperors in 200 years. It was a beautiful dream. So, son of God, if you're willing to trade, I will swear the oath right now. He raised his hand, ready to commit his soul to the promise. It sounds like I should be moved, I said, squinting at him with a half-smile. This idiot was really good at drawing big pictures for a future that didn't exist. You have to believe me. Ouyang Qingyun was losing his composure. He kept glancing at Fei Fei, the seeds of greed sprouting in his heart. Even as a Holy Land son of God, you can't unlock her power. Giving her to me is the only right choice. I promise you, you will at least be a quasi-emperor under my command. The word quasi-emperor sent a shockwave through the room. The fortune god sect experts gasped. In this lower realm, the nirvana realm was the peak. To go higher, one had to reach the transcendent realm in the upper world. A quasi-emperor was a legend beyond even that. The experts from the fortune god sect stood frozen, their eyes burning with envy and greed. To them, a quasi-emperor was a godlike existence. They looked at me as if I were the luckiest man alive, probably wondering why they hadn't been the ones to find a divine beast to gift their young leader. In their minds, my future was suddenly paved with gold. Behind me, The elders of the Spirit Void Holy Land and Holy Master Lin Tian were reacting differently. Their faces twitched with a mix of disbelief and second-hand embarrassment. This wasn't the first time they felt speechless. 2 days ago, Xiao Shisan had tried to threaten me using the name of the Longevity Gu family. It was beyond absurd. Even though they lived in the lower realm, they had ways to contact the main Gu family in the upper world every 1,000 years. They knew exactly what the Gu family represented. In the upper world, a quasi-emperor might be a powerful warlord or a sect leader, but in the Gu family, it was nothing. As the only legitimate heir to the Gu family, I could spend my entire life sleeping and still reach that level effortlessly. When Ouyang Qingyun promised me that I would surely become a quasi-emperor, my expression darkened instantly. Who the hell did he think he was insulting? Even without my villain system, the sheer amount of resources my family owned could pile up high enough to force me into the Great Emperor realm. Now, this clown was telling me my limit was a mere quasi-emperor. It seemed I had been too patient with him. The playful mood I had earlier vanished. I walked toward Ouyang Qingyun with a cold, heavy gaze. I raised my hand and swung. Slap. The sound was deafening, echoing through the hall like a thunderclap. Ouyang Qingyun's head snapped to the side, his body spinning from the force. That slap, I said coldly, is for having the nerve to insult me by saying my achievements would end at the quasi-emperor level. You death-seeking trash. Ouyang Qingyun staggered, his brain rattling inside his skull. He couldn't even process what had happened. Behind him, the elders of the Fortune God sect failed to intervene because it was all too sudden. More than that, the reason I gave left them questioning their own ears. Did he just say that being called a quasi-emperor was an insult? To them, that was a realm beyond their wildest dreams. To me, it was a slur. The great elder of the Fortune God sect was the first to snap out of it. He rushed forward to support the swaying Ouyang Qingyun, his face twisted in anger. We came here with sincere intentions, he roared. Our young leader offered to share a grand destiny with you. Not only are you ungrateful, but you've resorted to violence. Is this how a Holy Land son of God treats his guests? Before the words could even settle, Lin Tian moved. As the Holy Master and my self-appointed bodyguard, he wouldn't allow anyone to point a finger at me. My favor was his ticket to the upper world, and he wasn't about to let this old man ruin it. Lin Tian's aura as a peak Nirvana realm expert exploded. He locked onto the Great Elder instantly. In the next heartbeat, a flash of light sliced through the air. Rip! The Great Elder's entire arm was severed from the shoulder. It hit the floor with a wet thud. Blood sprayed from the stump, painting the floor crimson. If you dare speak to the Son of God with such disrespect again, Lin Tian said, his voice like ice, it won't just be an arm. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the limbs I cut off can never be reattached. The Great Elder's pupils shrank. He hadn't even seen the move. The pain hit him a second later, followed by a wave of pure terror. He tried to scream, but the shock kept the sound trapped in his throat. Protect the Great Elder and the young leader. The rest of the Fortune God sect experts panicked. They formed a circle around their leaders, releasing their full power to resist Lin Tian's pressure. But they had underestimated the Spirit Void Holy Land, and they had definitely underestimated Lin Tian. He gave a contemptuous snort. Asterisk thump, 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 asterisk. Like falling dominoes, the experts collapsed one by one. They clutched their chests, blood leaking from their mouths, staring at Lin Tian in total shock. The weakest among them was a half-step Nirvana expert, and the strongest was nearly at the same level as the Great Elder. They were only one step away from the transcendent realm. Yet, a single cold huff from Lin Tian had suppressed them all. It was impossible. Their entire worldview was crumbling. After crushing them, the powerful Holy Master turned to me and bowed deeply. My lord, they were speaking insolently. I took the liberty of dealing with them. It's fine, I said, waving a hand dismissively. You did well. I hadn't planned on letting any of them leave today anyway. Ouyang Qingyun struggled to his feet. The physical damage to him wasn't great, but the sting on his cheek was humiliating. He looked at his fallen men, and his heart sank. This was not how he expected the day to go. Should I use my trump card? He thought desperately. He hesitated, then shook his head. Even with his hidden ace, He didn't know what other secrets the spirit void Holy Land held. If he played his last card now, there would be no turning back. He was a man who had never faced failure, and in his naivety, he still thought he could settle this. He told himself he just had to endure the humiliation. Once he had the divine beast, revenge would be easy. Son of God, he said, his voice much more subdued, the greed hidden behind a mask of forced respect. The great elder and I were indeed out of line. Please, do not take offense. Let's get back to business. I looked at him, his face swollen and red on one side, yet still offering a polite apology. I had to hand it to him. His mental fortitude was impressive. He was like one of those chosen ones who could endure any shame to achieve his goals. If I let him walk away today, he might actually become a problem in the future, which meant he wasn't walking away. Fine, I said suddenly. Since you want to talk business, I'll give you a chance. You want the beast on my shoulder? I can give her to you, but I need something in exchange. Ouyang Qingyun's eyes lit up with frantic joy. Name it. Even if I have to go through fire or climb a mountain of blades, I will get it for you. I slowly raised my hand and pointed a single finger directly at his chest. What I want, I said, a cruel smile playing on my lips, is you. Ouyang Qingyun froze, pointing at his own nose in confusion. Me? Behind him, the great elder, who was clutching his bleeding stump, reached out with his remaining hand and tugged at Ouyang Qingyun's robe. Young leader, I have a thought, though I don't know if I should say it. Ouyang Qingyun turned back to look at the great elder. The old man's face was deathly pale, and his aura was dangerously unstable, yet he looked at his young leader with a strange intensity. Ouyang Qingyun asked him if he was all right, but the great elder just shook his head. Losing an arm was a small price to pay if it meant calming my wrath and securing the future of their sect. The great elder took a deep breath and sent a private sound transmission to Ouyang Qingyun. He explained that getting the divine beast through normal means was now impossible. He laid out 3 potential strategies. The low strategy was to use the hidden trump card given by their sect leader to start an all-out war, but since this was my home turf, victory was unlikely. The middle strategy was to convince me that Ouyang Qingyun had the power to help me become a quasi-emperor in the future. The elder figured I had insulted the idea earlier only because I didn't believe they had the capability. Then came the high strategy. The great elder hesitated, his eyes darting between me and Ouyang Qingyun. He swallowed hard, looking like the words were stuck in his throat. Ouyang Qingyun snapped at him to just say it, his desperation for the divine beast overriding everything else. The great elder finally spoke. The high strategy was for Ouyang Qingyun to simply submit to me. Ouyang Qingyun was confused at first, but then the realization hit him. The great elder nodded solemnly. He told Ouyang Qingyun that ever since I arrived, I had been looking at him with a strange gaze. And since I had just told the entire crowd that I wanted him, the elder was convinced I had a taste for men. He told Ouyang Qingyun that the road to success required enduring humiliation. He told him to just pretend he was being gored by a pig for the greater good. Ouyang Qingyun's body swayed. He didn't doubt the elder's logic. He remembered the weird smile I had given him and felt sick. He closed his eyes, his fists clenching so hard his nails drew blood. He had to choose. If this was the only way to get the beast, he didn't have a choice. He opened his eyes, filled with a terrifying resolve. For the sake of the divine beast, he would give up everything. He straightened his clothes, brushed off the dirt, and forced a peaceful smile onto his face. He walked toward me, step by step, stopping right in front of me. His lips trembled. If I give myself to you, he whispered, will you really give me the beast? Naturally, I replied without hesitation. I wasn't lying. Whether it was his status as a child of destiny or his innate great fortune-endowed body, I wanted it all. If he offered his body willingly for me to refine, the results would be far better than if I took it by force. Of course, I was still going to kill him afterward. Ouyang Qingyun nodded heavily, showing his determination. Then, he reached up and unbuttoned the top of his robe, letting it slide down to reveal his pale shoulders. The entire scene went silent. Even the old experts of my sect, who had lived for thousands of years, were completely stunned. Their jaws dropped. In a way, Ouyang Qingyun had defeated every powerful cultivator there just by sheer shock value. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. They knew I wanted his life, but they didn't expect him to try and sell his body to save himself. And he was a man. What kind of test was this? The followers of the Furuwe God sect who were lying wounded on the ground spat out mouthfuls of blood in shame. It was too humiliating. They would rather die in battle than see their young leader do something so ridiculous. They covered their faces, wishing they were dead. I stared at Ouyang Qingyun as he continued to let his robe slide down. My expression shifted from confusion to pure disgust. There were no words for how I felt. I didn't want to see another second of this eye-searing performance. I lunged forward and buried my fist directly into his face. The blow sent him crashing to the ground, his clothes half off and his face a bloody mess. But that wasn't enough to vent my anger. I didn't want to get my hands any dirtier, so I snatched a sword from one of the nearby elders and began stabbing Ouyang Qingyun repeatedly. Are you out of your mind? I cursed with every thrust. When I said I wanted you, I meant your constitution. I meant your providence. I meant your damn life. You actually thought I wanted your body? Look at yourself in a mirror. You look like a eunuch. Even a dog would turn away in disgust. You're a disgrace to your sect. Blood soaked the earth. Ouyang Qingyun was full of holes, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the psychological trauma. He realized he had made a catastrophic, legendary mistake. His mind, already fragile, completely snapped. If word of this got out, he could never show his face in the world again. A flicker of madness ignited in his eyes. There was only one way out. He had to kill everyone here. Me, the elders, even his own people. No witnesses could remain. His blurry eyes turned sharp and insane. Suddenly, the jade pendant around his neck exploded. God, save me, he screamed. The clear sky was instantly swallowed by dark, swirling clouds, as if a giant hand were churning the heavens. A blinding purple light tore through the firmament and coalesced into a massive phantom. It was a purple qilin. Its body shimmered with starlight, its scales glowing, and its eyes were as large as brass bells, radiating ferocity. It stepped through the air, looking down at the crowd before locking its gaze on the mangled Ouyang Qingyun. Are you the descendant of that man? The qilin asked, its voice booming with ancient authority. I stopped stabbing Ouyang Qingyun and looked up at the sky, a smirk playing on my lips. They had actually summoned a qilin phantom. Things were finally getting interesting. I looked up at the purple-furred beast, wondering which minor branch of the qilin lineage this might belong to. Ouyang Qingyun, finally getting a moment to breathe, scrambled to his feet. He looked like a drowning man catching a life raft. Yes, yes, he shrieked, his voice cracking with desperation. I am the current young leader of the Furuwe divine sect. I beg the great God to help us survive this disaster. He stared at the phantom with wide, hopeful eyes. This was his ultimate trump card. Before he left home, his father had pressed a jade pendant into his hand, warning him to only break it if things became truly hopeless. It was an ancient relic left behind by a sect ancestor, but its energy had faded over the eons. His father had spent 2 days and a fortune in resources just to refill it so it could communicate with the upper realms. Now that a purple qilin had actually appeared, Ouyang Qingyun was ecstatic. Everyone knew the Qilin clan. In the ancient eras, their leader was a true auspicious beast, heading one of the most powerful factions in the upper world. I'm safe, he thought, the physical pain of his wounds suddenly feeling duller. If this qilin killed everyone here, his humiliating secret would stay buried forever. But then, he noticed something strange. The qilin didn't move. It didn't acknowledge his plea. Instead, it was staring at him with the same predatory intensity one had shown earlier. Ouyang Qingyun's heart skipped a beat. A cold wave of dread washed over him. Up in the sky, the qilin phantom remained silent, its heavy breath swirling like mist as it calculated. The Honyundao body, the beast thought. How could such a terrifying constitution appear in this tiny lower realm? If I swallow this body, I could awaken my bloodline and become a true auspicious beast. The beast completely forgot about the favor its ancestors owed the Furuwe sect. It decided right then, it would devour the boy and then maybe protect the sect for 10,000 years to settle the karmic debt. Great God, Ouyang Qingyun called out cautiously, sensing the heavy silence. Why have you summoned me? The qilin finally spoke. Its eyes never left Ouyang Qingyun, hiding a deep, flickering greed. Because of the sheer pressure the beast radiated, the commoners below couldn't look it in the eye, so they missed the hunger hidden there. Great God, this is the Lingxiao sacred ground, Ouyang Qingyun shouted, pointing a trembling finger. They are arrogant and have bullied my sect beyond repair. I, the 327th successor, beg you to wipe this place from existence. He was smart enough not to mention the auspicious beast prophecy. He didn't want the Qilin to get curious about his own hidden value. Just a single sect? Fine, the Qilin replied dismissively. To a beast like him, destroying a lower realm sect was like using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Even a newborn Qilin from his tribe could do it. He looked away from Ouyang Qingyun and turned his gaze toward the people of the Lingxiao sacred ground. He decided to get this over with. He opened his massive jaws, and a searing purple flame began to condense. The heat was so intense the surrounding space began to crack and crumble. Lowly humans of the lower realm, the beast boomed. To die by my hand is your greatest honor. He unleashed the blast. A torrent of purple fire surged downward, the temperature skyrocketing instantly. Every plant and herb on the mountain evaporated into ash. As the wall of fire roared closer, the Holy Lord and the elders rushed forward, shielding me with their own bodies. They were ready to die just to keep me from getting singed. Move aside, I said, stepping through the crowd. This little spark isn't even enough to light a cigarette. I reached out and tapped my spatial ring. I pulled out a rusty, battered copper mirror and tossed it casually into the air, right into the path of the oncoming inferno. Ignorant brat, the Qilin sneered. Even if that was just a casual breath, no one in this world should have been able to stop it. But his sneer froze. The rusty mirror had no aura, no owner's mark. It looked like junk. Yet, the moment the purple flames touched the glass, they were sucked inside. It was like the fire had never existed. What is that thing? The Qilin gasped. Even with his vast knowledge of the upper realms, he couldn't recognize it. Before he could react, the mirror vibrated. It spat the flames back out, but now they were twice as intense, laced with the terrifying aura of the great Tao of fire. The Qilin tried to dodge, but you can't outrun the Tao. Boom. The sky exploded. The purple phantom was swallowed by its own upgraded flames. A pathetic wail echoed through the clouds. How? How can a mere projection wound my true body back in the upper realm? Oh. Within seconds, the phantom shattered into a million points of light and vanished. I caught the mirror as it fell and tossed it back into my ring. It was just one of the many trinkets my parents gave me before I came down here. Being the only heir of the Longevity Gu family meant I had so many life-saving treasures I couldn't even remember the names of half of them. The silence that followed was deafening. Ouyang Qingyun stood there like a statue, his legs shaking so hard he looked like he might collapse. He looked utterly broken. He probably thought the world had gone mad. How could a rusty mirror insta-kill a godlike being from the upper realm? Suddenly, the broken shards of the jade pendant on the ground began to glow. A few seconds later, a mini version of the purple Qilin, no bigger than a palm, condensed from the remaining energy. It didn't look majestic anymore. It looked defeated. Tougher than you look, I remarked, spotting it instantly. I wonder how many more hits you can take. I reached into my ring again and pulled out a small, sharp flying dagger. It hovered over my head, its tip locked onto the tiny beast. Wait! Stop! The Qilin shrieked. It had felt the pain of its projection being destroyed all the way back in the upper world. It wasn't looking for a second round. Not only had the phantom shattered, but the impact was so severe that the main body back in the upper realm was instantly crippled. That thing wasn't stupid. It knew that anyone capable of wounding a true body through a mere projection was someone you didn't mess with. Yet, it had risked everything to project back down through the jade shards one last time. It wanted to know my identity. It needed to know if it had just created a death sentence for its entire clan. I didn't come back to be your enemy. The tiny Qilin squeaked, its voice trembling. I looked down at the palm-sized beast and found the whole thing hilarious. Oh, so you're saying you came back to apologize? Fine. Go ahead. I'm listening. The Qilin froze. It looked like it had never heard that word before. These creatures were notoriously arrogant. They didn't do apologies. Usually, they'd just find a way to save face and walk away. Lowering their heads to admit a mistake was beneath their dignity. "Sir, I think you misunderstand," it said, trying to regain some poise. "I came back to clarify who you are. I want to avoid unnecessary conflict." I didn't say anything about an apology. I narrowed my eyes. "My identity. You aren't worthy of knowing it. But I'm actually quite curious about yours. You little purple-furred mutt." The Chelan's fur stood on end. "You seek death." It cut itself off mid-sentence. The flying dagger above my head hummed, locked onto its throat. The sensation of impending death was cold and absolute. It knew that if it finished that sentence, I'd shred its projection and likely kill its true body along with it. Seeing it cowed, I shook my head and sighed. As far as I know, the Chelan mountain range is home to 5 main branches: gold, green, ink, water, and fire. The legendary purple Chelan is the strongest lineage, but only 2 have ever existed. One was your ancestor, who died eons ago. The other one, well, it definitely isn't you. So, I'm wondering, where did you get this coat of purple paint? The Chelan's face twisted into a mask of pure panic. Its tribe had lived in total isolation for years. How did this young man know their internal structure? How could he tell it wasn't a real purple Chelan with a single glance? I didn't wait for its answer. Since ancient times, only the purple Chelan could reach the great emperor realm. The rest of you, no matter how hard you work, are capped at the pseudo-emperor stage because of your bloodline. Like I said, there is only one purple Chelan left in this world, and it hasn't fully awakened yet. For a junior like you to pose as one. If your clan elders found out, the punishment would be brutal, wouldn't it? How do you know all this? The Chelan was completely broken now. Its majesty was gone, replaced by a frantic, confused mess. Then, it seemed to catch a desperate lifeline. "Wait, you said it yourself, there's only one left. How do you know I'm not the one? You've never even seen it." It couldn't admit to the lie. If the truth got back to the tribe, it would be exiled. "I've never seen it." I laughed, the sound echoing through the ruins. I flipped my palm, and a purple calligraphy brush appeared in my hand. The moment it emerged, a faint, divine pressure radiated outward. The Chelan's heart nearly stopped. It felt an instinctive, bone-deep urge to kneel. This was bloodline suppression. Its true identity was just a member of the Fire Chelan branch. It had used its vanity to disguise itself as a purple Chelan while messing around in the lower realms, thinking no one would ever know. But the brush in my hand carried a unique aura that no Chelan could mistake. The bristles were made from the fur of a true purple Chelan. Why do you have that? Impossible. That's impossible." It shook its head violently, refusing to believe its eyes. The current leader of the Chelan tribe was indeed the only purple Chelan left. He had reached the pseudo-emperor realm thousands of years ago. Even though that leader had gone missing recently, there was no way his fur had been turned into a common writing tool. "Don't be so quick to deny it," I said, watching the creature spiral into self-doubt. "The whereabouts of your leader isn't exactly a secret in the upper realm. Surely you know where he went." "Of course I know," the Chelan snapped back. But as it spoke, a bitter memory resurfaced, a story the tribe hated to tell. 20 years ago, the Longevity Gu family had decided their newly born son of God needed a mount. They didn't ask, they just showed up at the Chelan Mountains, acting like they owned the place. They rounded up hundreds of thousands of Chelans like they were picking out livestock at a market. The Chelan tribe was humiliated, but the Gu family elders were so powerful that the tribe had to swallow their pride. To make it worse, the Gu family had looked at all those thousands of Chelans and scoffed, saying the quality was too trash for their son of God. The tribe thought the nightmare was over until the Gu family set their sights on the new clan leader, the only purple Chelan, who was just one step away from becoming a great emperor. A Gu family emperor had shown up personally, packed the clan leader up like a bag of leftovers, and carried him away. For the last 20 years, the pride of the Chelan race had been serving as a guard dog for the Gu family. And looking at the brush in my hand, the truth finally hit the little creature like a physical blow. The entire Chelan tribe lived in constant fear. They worried their leader was being tortured, skinned, or eaten by the Gu family. The only thing keeping their hope alive was the leader's soul lamp. It still flickered back at their home, meaning he was alive. There was still a slim chance for their future. The little fire Qilin shook its head, trying to shove those painful memories away. It refused to speak. This was about the dignity of its entire race. But just because it stayed silent didn't mean I would. The only purple Qilin left in this world is 5,238 years old, I said calmly. His original name was Mo Yang, but he changed it to Ziyun after awakening his bloodline. He broke into the Shattered Realm 3,000 years ago and became a quasi-emperor 1,000 years back. He masters the Tao of fire, wind, and auspiciousness. The fire Qilin froze. Its eyes widened in pure shock. Even it only knew fragments of its leader's history. How could a young man who wasn't even part of their tribe know these details so intimately? Curious how I know? I took a few steps forward, looking down at the mouse-sized creature. I narrowed my eyes. That Ziyun is nothing more than a big dog guarding the gates of my Gu family. When I was a child, I'd throw him a bone, and he'd wag his tail and rub his head against my palm just to please me. I let my voice turn cold, each word hitting like a thunderclap. You're just a common member of that tribe. You dared to raise a hand against me? Do you think you've lived long enough? The Qilin was completely stunned. It stared at me, wondering if its ears were playing tricks. Its leader, the pride of the race and a future great emperor, was being described as a common house pet. It wanted to roar. It wanted to fight back against this insult. But as it prepared to lash out, a memory flashed in its mind. A year ago, the clan leader had sent a message back to the tribe along with a portrait. The Qilin had only glanced at it back then, but now, looking at me, the realization hit like a physical blow. The man in the portrait was standing right in front of him. The leader's command echoed in its head. Asterisk, better to break into the halls of hell than to provoke a member of the Gu family. Especially the man in this portrait. If a single hair on his head is harmed, the entire Qilin race will suffer for eternity. Asterisk. Fear and regret flooded the Qilin's tiny pupils. It finally understood why I could stop its attacks with a simple mirror. I wasn't just some genius. I was the son of God from the longevity Gu family. Everything I said was true. Its leader really was a guard dog. The creature looked up at me, trembling. It knew it had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. If a quasi-emperor could be snatched up like a stray, what hope did a common Qilin have? It made a decision instantly. It could die for its mistake, but it couldn't let its entire race pay the price. Son of God Gu. It whispered, its voice shaking. I was blind. I offended you. Even 10,000 deaths wouldn't be enough to pay for my crime. But this was my mistake alone. It has nothing to do with the Qilin tribe. The creature's transparent body suddenly erupted in intense, searing flames. It didn't scream, even though the pain must have been unbearable. It lowered its proud head and slammed it against the ground, begging for mercy for its kin. I watched silently. I didn't agree, and I didn't refuse. After a moment, the flames vanished, leaving nothing but a small dent in the dirt. The projection was gone, but I knew what had happened. This wasn't just the projection dying. Back in the upper realm, the Qilin's true body had self-immolated. It chose a dignified suicide to protect its family from my wrath. That was the power of the Gu family name. Most people considered themselves lucky if they got the chance to kill themselves before we did it for them. Beside me, Ouyang Qingyun had completely lost his mind. He scrambled on the ground, clawing at the dirt where the Qilin had disappeared. Great Spirit, where are you? Stop joking. Come out. He was covered in mud and blood, desperately digging as if he could pull his protector back from the void. He didn't even notice me walking up to him. I reached out and pressed my palm against the top of his head. My devouring god body surged to life. A terrifying suction force latched onto his skull. It's always better to harvest a bloodline while the host is still breathing. I wanted that red fortune Dao body, and I wanted it now. No, stop, Ouyang Qingyun screamed. His face twisted in agony as his very essence was ripped from his bones. Even in his death throes, he glared at me with pure hatred. Gu Wuchen, we had no grudge. Why go this far? If I escape today, I will personally take your life. I didn't bother responding to his delusions. I focused on the task at hand. My devouring god body was designed to reign supreme over all others. It didn't matter how prestigious the Constitution was, it would eventually be mine. The only difference was the effort required. Xiao Shisan's bone had been easy, but this Dao body was deep-rooted. I was a patient man. I wasn't going to waste a single drop. Young leader. The experts from the Fortune Divine sect roared in fury. They were surrounded by the people of the Lingxiao Holy Land, unable to move a muscle to help him. Is this how the Lingxiao Holy Land treats guests? If the other Holy Lands hear of this, you will become the enemies of the world. I looked down at Ouyang Qingyun, my hand still clamped firmly onto his skull. The experts from the Fortune Divine sect were still screaming, their voices grating on my nerves. They kept shouting about being guests and how the world would judge me. It was pathetic. I reached into my storage with my left hand and pulled out a flag. It was a deep, bloody red, so dark it was almost black. This was the Renhuang banner, one of the key items from my villain starter pack. The moment it appeared, a massive, ancient pressure flooded the area for hundreds of miles. Faint streaks of primordial purple energy swirled around it, striking fear into the heart of everyone watching. The banner grew rapidly, expanding until it covered the entire Holy Lord Peak. It blotted out the sun, plunging the mountain into total darkness. I looked at the Fortune Divine sect members and smiled coldly. Since they loved talking about being guests so much, I decided to give them a proper place to stay. I flicked a finger, sending a strand of spiritual energy into the banner. The purple mist instantly curdled, turning pitch black. Thick smoke rose from the fabric, accompanied by the chilling wails of 10,000 ghosts. My lip twitched. That was the downside of the villain system. Anything I touched with my energy automatically turned evil. My friends, I said, my voice echoing in the dark, since you claim to be guests of our Lingxiao Holy Land, why don't you step inside my banner for a chat? It's the least I can do to show some hospitality. I didn't wait for an answer. I swung the Renhuang banner. A violent, wicked wind swept through the crowd. I controlled the suction perfectly, bypassing my own people and locking onto the experts from the Fortune Divine sect. The wind howled like a dying beast. Even the King Realm experts found their feet leaving the ground. They couldn't resist. They stared at the black smoke and the screaming flag with pure terror. When the banner was purple, they might have considered it. Now that it looked like a portal to hell, they were desperate to escape. But it was too late. One by one, they were sucked into the darkness. The banner let out a low, satisfied rumble, like a beast burping after a heavy meal, and then floated back to my side. The Son of God's treasures are truly terrifying, one of the Holy Land elders whispered. He was at the 8th level of the King Realm, yet he knew he wouldn't have lasted a second against that flag. Watch your tongue, Holy Lord Ling Tian snapped, silencing the elder immediately. I didn't care about their chatter. I was at the most critical stage of the harvest. I focused everything on my devouring god body. Ouyang Qingyun was gritting his teeth, his face deforming under the pressure of my palm. He was a child of destiny, after all. His willpower was insane. He was clinging to his Dao body with everything he had, hoping for a miracle. Everything you've done since I arrived has been a joke, I whispered to him. You wanted me to give you the Qilin? You promised me you'd reach the Quasi-Emperor realm one day as a reward. I leaned in closer. Do you know what level that Qilin actually is? He's a peak Quasi-Emperor who has mastered 3 different Daos. And to me, he's nothing more than a watchdog. Ouyang's eyes bulged. I let my full King Realm power explode, combining it with the devouring god body to tear at his essence. A massive vortex of energy erupted around us, forcing even the Holy Lord to step back in awe. Impossible, Ouyang wheezed. He was covered in blood, his skin torn and his spirit breaking. He couldn't accept it. No one turns a Quasi-Emperor into a dog. He tried to convince himself I was lying just to break his mental state. He glared at me with a look that said he would never die here. Then, something shifted. A blinding gold light erupted from his body. The red Fortune Dao body, which I had almost fully extracted, suddenly locked back into his bones. It wasn't just staying put, it was growing stronger. A new status panel flickered into my vision. Name, Ouyang Qingyun. Cultivation, King Realm. Jumped from Profound Realm level 7. Physique, red Fortune Dao body, near completion. Fate, defying the heavens, changing fate. I was stunned for a split second. In less than 15 minutes, his cultivation had skyrocketed across an entire major realm. His personality had shifted to madness, and his fate had evolved from simple good luck into something that could overturn the world. He was trying to rewrite the ending. He was trying to survive the impossible. This was the true horror of a child of destiny. The worse the situation, the more they exploded with potential. It was a literal rebirth through destruction. I narrowed my eyes at him. He had reached the king realm, sure. But did he really think that was enough to change his fate? To me, a king realm ant was still just an ant. I tightened my grip. I wanted to see exactly how much fate he had left to burn. I trusted the system's judgment. If it used a term like reversing the heavens, it meant Ouyang Qingyun was about to pull something massive. Suddenly, a thunderous roar split the sky. Dark, heavy clouds swirled in from every direction, blanketing the entire Lingxiao Holy Land in a suffocating pressure. "Tribulation clouds," someone screamed. The disciples below looked up in shock. They knew that only a peak king realm cultivator breaking through to the emperor realm could summon a lightning tribulation. They whispered among themselves, wondering which elder was bold enough to trigger their breakthrough right on the Holy Master's peak. The Holy Master and the other peak masters were even more stunned. This defied everything they knew about cultivation. Someone was triggering a lightning tribulation while jumping from the profound realm to the king realm. It was unheard of in the entire history of the continent, yet it was happening right in front of them. The Holy Master snapped out of his daze and shouted a warning. "Son of God, Ouyang Qingyun has somehow summoned a tribulation. Please step back. Wait until the lightning is over before you kill him." I didn't move. I just stared at the swirling black vortex in the sky. I knew the Holy Master was right about the risks. Usually, people choose a deserted wasteland for their tribulations. If a second person enters the range, the power of the lightning multiplies by thousands. History had no record of two people surviving a shared tribulation. The only result was total annihilation. Worse, if you try to kill someone right before their lightning strikes, you provoke the heavens. The tribulation will shift its target to you and won't stop until you're dead. This was Ouyang Qingyun's fate at work. He was using the laws of the universe to force a stalemate. Ha! Ouyang Qingyun let out a wild, manic laugh. He looked at me with mocking eyes, fueled by desperate joy. "You're scared, aren't you? If you're afraid, then get lost. Let me finish my tribulation, and then we'll settle our scores." He dragged his broken body away, limping toward the center of the clearing to face the sky alone. He clearly didn't want anyone near him either. "Son of God, don't be impulsive," the Holy Master urged again. "The thief is at his limit. There's no way he survives that lightning in his condition. Let the heavens do your work for you." The Holy Master was sweating. His future depended on my safety. If I left this place unharmed, the Gu family would reward him. If a single hair on my head was singed, he was a dead man. I looked at their terrified faces and smiled. Then, I took a step toward Ouyang Qingyun. "Scared? Why should I be scared?" I asked, my voice calm. "It's just a little lightning. Even if this were a supreme realm or a void-shattering tribulation, it would feel like nothing more than a light breeze on my face." I knew exactly what would happen if I let him finish. He would successfully break through, his red fortune Dao body would reach full completion, and he would be reborn. I wasn't going to give him that chance. Besides, I had a secret. I already mastered a great Dao, a power usually reserved for quasi-emperors. Using that to face a king realm tribulation was like using a heavy cannon to swat a mosquito. It was almost too easy. I walked toward the center of the storm with light, easy steps. Ouyang Qingyun's smug smile vanished. His breath hitched. What are you doing?" "Stay back," he shrieked. "This is a lightning tribulation. Are you insane? You'll kill us both." He wasn't mocking me anymore. He had assumed I would wait for the storm to pass. He never imagined I would be crazy enough to jump right into the meat grinder with him. "You invited me, didn't you?" I said, stopping just 5 feet away from him. I spoke like an old friend catching up, not a villain about to strip him of his soul. I'm a very polite person. When I get an invitation, I always show up. Ouyang was speechless. He knew he had a 50-50 chance of surviving alone. If he made it, he planned to flee, hide, and return for revenge years later. Now, those plans were turning to ash. Was I a genius or just a complete idiot? The clouds reached their peak. 2 massive bolts of purple lightning, thick as tree trunks, tore through the sky. One slammed toward me, the other toward Ouyang. Damn it, Ouyang cursed. He swung his life-bound treasure, a glowing whip, to intercept the strike. The whip hissed as it met the bolt, but it only absorbed a fraction of the power. The remaining lightning smashed into him, cratering the ground. When the dust cleared, Ouyang was a wreck. Both his arms were shattered, hanging limp at his sides. One of his eyes had been blown out. He was barely recognizable as a human being. Then there was me. I didn't even raise a hand. I closed my eyes and let the purple lightning wash over me. It didn't burn, it didn't tear. Instead, the energy flowed into my pores, acting as pure nourishment for my devouring god body. I let out a long breath. That feels good. It was better than any cultivation session I'd ever had. After the cleansing from the water spirit body earlier, this lightning was tempering my meridians, making them glow with a faint, indestructible silver light. I opened my eyes and looked down at the pile of broken meat that was Ouyang Qingyun. He was clinging to his last breath. Hey, I said softly, don't die yet. I've already put a claim on that Tao body of yours. Ouyang Qingyun spat out a mouthful of thick, dark blood. His face was a mask of agony and realization. You knew all along, he croaked, clutching his chest. He finally understood. I hadn't just discovered his red fortune Tao body now. I had targeted it from the very first moment we clashed. All his desperate struggles, his attempts to trade information for his life, it was all a joke. To me, he was just a delivery boy bringing a divine gift right to my doorstep. He let out a cold, hollow laugh. His mouth was a ruin of shredded meat and missing teeth. Fine, he hissed. If that's how it is, I'll let this Tao body burn to ash under the lightning. You want to take it? In your dreams. He gave up. He stopped circulating his energy and lay flat on his back in the crater, staring up at the swirling black clouds. He was waiting for the second bolt to finish him off. He'd rather die and take his talent to the grave than let me have it. Outside the lightning zone, the atmosphere was pure chaos. The Holy Lord of the Spirit Void sect and the various peak masters were frantic. Holy Lord, what do we do? One cried out. The Son of God blocked the first strike, but the power increases exponentially with every bolt. He can't stay in there. We have to stop this. Think of something, another urged. Shut up. All of you, the Holy Lord snapped. He was more stressed than any of them. He pulled out a jade communication slip, hesitated for a split second, and then crushed it in his palm. He sighed, looking up at the sky. It looks like I won't be escaping my punishment after all. He was waiting for someone. Someone from above. High above our world, in the eternal Tao realm of the upper realm, sits the Gu family. They are the leaders of the 5 ancient clans, the absolute overlords of the heavens. Inside a majestic, mist-shrouded palace, a man and a woman were in the middle of a heated argument. The woman wore a sharp sword robe, her beauty tempered by a fierce, heroic edge. Right now, her face was tight with worry. It's been over a year. She paced back and forth, her boots clicking sharply on the jade floor. I have no idea how Chinner is doing in the lower realms. I told you, your Gu family rules are too much. If I'd known it would be like this, I never would have married into this house. She glared at the man sitting on the main throne. Gu Jiushang, the head of the family, sat there with an aura that could suppress worlds, but he remained silent, looking like a scolded schoolboy. My lady, you just spent a year in secluded cultivation, Gu Jiushang sighed, putting down his book. Why are you still so restless? Ever since their son, Gu Wuchen, that's me, had been sent to the lower realms for temperament training according to ancestral law, his wife, Muron Yunj, had been furious. She'd even moved back to her parents' house in protest. She had only just returned, and already she was back to interrogating him. Chun'er is in the lower realms, not a demon pit, Gu Jiushang said, rubbing his temples. What could possibly happen to him? Besides, your father gave him so many hidden treasures that even if he stood still and let someone attack him, a great emperor couldn't kill him. Before he could finish, a maid burst into the hall, her face pale with terror. Master, madam, something terrible has happened. The air in the room froze. Gu Jiushang and Muron Yunj both turned, their expressions shifting instantly. This maid was responsible for monitoring the signals from the lower realms. If she said it was terrible, it involved their son. Boom. The dragon throne, forged from 9 heaven black iron, shattered into dust under Gu Jiushang's grip. As a great emperor, his unintentional leak of killing intent rippled across the entire eternal Dao realm. Thousands of sects and powerful experts trembled in fear, wondering who had dared to provoke the Gu family. What is it? Morong Yunj reached the maid first, her voice trembling. Is it my son? Yes, madam, the maid gasped. She quickly relayed the message from the spirit void Holy Lord. I had voluntarily walked into someone else's heavenly tribulation. Morong Yunj's heart slowed down slightly, and Gu Jiushang retracted his terrifying pressure. The world outside returned to peace. Oh, it's just a lightning tribulation, Gu Jiushang muttered, waving the maid away. I thought he was being hunted by a dozen emperors. It's no big deal. But Morong Yunj wasn't finished. She marched up to him, hands on her hips, and grabbed Gu Jiushang, the supreme ruler of the Gu family, right by the ear. What did I just say? She barked, twisting his ear. Your stupid ancestral rules almost put my son in danger. If my father hadn't sent those life-saving treasures, this could have been a disaster. Ow, ow, honey, stop. Let go. Gu Jiushang winced, his dignified image crumbling. I'm the clan head. Give me some face. Ow. The most powerful man in the realm didn't dare fight back. He had spent years chasing this sword goddess before finally winning her heart, and he was completely wrapped around her finger. Besides, he knew he'd given me just as many treasures as her father had, maybe more, but he wasn't brave enough to argue. You know it hurts now? Morong Yunj didn't let go. She twisted his ear another 2 times for good measure. Think about how much our son is suffering down there. If you don't give me a solution today, you can say goodbye to this ear. Fine, fine. Whatever you want. Gu Jiushang surrendered. He realized his wife had come back today with a plan. The distress signal from the lower realm was just the perfect excuse she needed to force his hand. Morong Yunj finally let go and patted his ear affectionately. Does it still hurt? Do you want me to blow on it? Gu Jiushang blushed. He was a man who feared nothing in heaven or earth, except his wife's soft and hard tactics. We can talk about that in the bedroom later. Tell me what you want to do about our son first. Morong Yunj laughed, a bright, melodic sound. Look at you, still so shy after all these years. Fine, let's talk about our son. She clapped her hands, a mischievous glint in her eyes. A woman wearing a light veil stepped through the door. Her movements were graceful, her every gesture carrying an air of elegance that no ordinary person could match. She possessed a natural charm that most men would find impossible to resist. As soon as she entered, she bowed deeply. Disciple Gu Qinci pays respects to Master and Grandmaster. Rise, Morong Yunj said, waving her hand lightly. An invisible force lifted the girl back to her feet. There are no outsiders here. You don't need to be so formal. Morong Yunj looked at her with a soft expression. Qinci, I assume you know why I called you here today. Gu Qinci paused for a moment, her voice clear and melodic as she replied. I suspect it is regarding the young master. Exactly, Morong Yunj nodded, her eyes filled with maternal worry. Chin'er is alone in the lower realm. As his mother, I cannot rest easy. I want you to head down there yourself. For now, you will act as his Dao protector. Do you understand your mission? I understand, Gu Qinci answered without a second of hesitation. Good. Go and prepare. Visit the Elder's Pavilion and set off for the lower realm today. Gu Qinci bowed again and turned to leave. Just as her hand reached for the door handle, her master's voice rang out again from behind her. Oh, by the way, I've heard some rumors lately. They say the 3rd young master of the Tang family and the young princess of the 9 Nether Palace got into a violent brawl over you. Apparently, the Tang boy even lost an arm in the fight. Now both families are at each other's throats. About this matter. Before the sentence was finished, Gu Qinci's shoulders trembled almost imperceptibly. She spun around and dropped to her knees again. Master, I only found out about that after it happened. I have no connection with either of them. The only time we ever met was at the Grandmaster's birthday banquet. Peace, child. I'm not blaming you, Morong Yunj said, walking over to help her up. She gently straightened Gu Qinci's veil with the affection of a mother. Qinci, you are my only disciple. I've raised you like my own daughter and given you everything. But even so, in my heart, Chun'er will always come first. Her voice turned serious, almost cold. His natural talent is lacking, and that is my failure. I am willing to pay any price to fix that, even if that price is you. Do you understand what I'm saying? Meanwhile, back in the lower realm at the Lingxiao Holy Land, the sky was screaming. Thunder rolled across the heavens, and the clouds grew so thick they looked like a solid ceiling of obsidian. The pressure was so intense that even peak-level experts felt their hearts trembling with fear. Beneath the storm, two figures stood out. One was Ouyang Qingyun, his face ashen, waiting for the lightning to end his life. The other was me. I felt great. I was actually looking forward to the lightning. I wanted to eat it. I walked over to the crater where Ouyang Qingyun lay and reached out. A powerful suction force dragged him out of the dirt. I slammed my palm onto the top of his skull, pinning him down. It's a pity, I whispered. Your last hope, this heavenly tribulation, isn't going to save you. I didn't waste another second. I activated my devouring god body. Behind me, a massive, dark shadow manifested. It had no face, but anyone who looked at it felt a primal, bone-deep terror. This is the end. I'm taking your fortune Dao body. I let out a low roar. I could feel Ouyang Qingyun's meridians and bones snapping under the pressure. His nearly perfected fortune Dao body was being ripped out of him by force. The dark shadow behind me mirrored my movements, its pitch-black arms reaching into his soul to help me pull. No, Ouyang Qingyun shrieked. He felt his pride, his power, and his very essence leaving him. He was helpless. Up in the sky, the clouds finished swirling. The second bolt of lightning was ready, and it was 10 times more terrifying than the first. Ouyang Qingyun looked up, a crazed, desperate smile breaking across his face. Ha, Gu Wuchen, you're using all your strength to devour my body. Let's see how you handle the lightning now. He thought he had me. Since we were standing together, the heavens would strike us both. He didn't believe I could multitask well enough to rob him and survive a divine strike at the same time. Don't worry about me, I told him. I increased the suction. Most of the fortune Dao body was already out of him. It would only take a few more seconds. Then, the lightning fell. It didn't split this time. Thousands of smaller bolts merged into one massive pillar of white-hot destruction, aiming straight for my head. Too weak, I grunted. I lifted my left arm. I funneled the Dao of strength into my fist and punched upward, meeting the lightning head-on. The sound was deafening. The shockwave sent a ringing through the ears of everyone in the Lingxiao Holy Land. They couldn't see what was happening. They only knew the power of the heavens was something no mortal could survive. The Holy Master and the elders broke into cold sweats. They wanted to help, but they knew if they stepped in, the tribulation would only grow stronger and kill us all instantly. When the light finally faded, their jaws hit the floor. They rubbed their eyes, unable to believe what they were seeing. I stood there like a god of war. My left fist was still glowing with the faint light of the Dao. As for the lightning, it was gone. Only a few stray sparks remained, flickering harmlessly in the air. At that exact moment, the extraction finished. Ouyang Qingyun twitched violently one last time and collapsed into a heap of meat and broken bone. A milky white glow emerged from his chest. It stayed suspended in the air before me, radiating a sense of holiness and purity. What pure energy, I muttered. This is much better than Xiao Shisan's sword bone. I didn't hesitate. I opened my mouth and swallowed the glow whole. Instantly, a sensation I had never felt before washed over me. It was the feeling of being chosen, the sense that the heavens favored me and that my destiny was blessed. I hated it. I'm a villain. Why would I want the heavens to like me? I immediately used my devouring god body to strip away the destiny and fate attached to the energy. I crushed those parts into nothingness, leaving only the purest essence to fuel my own power. Now, I had the luck and benefits of the fortune Dao body without being a puppet of fate. The third bolt of lightning began to brew above me, ready to strike. But I was bored of playing games. I narrowed my eyes and pulled a random, nameless heavy saber from my storage ring. I poured the Dao of strength into the blade and swung it at the sky. A massive crescent of energy tore through the air, slicing into the storm clouds like a knife through silk. The tribulation clouds were split clean down the middle. My blade didn't just cut the vapor. The Tao of strength infused in the strike tore through the very fabric of the sky. The gash in the clouds extended outward, stretching endlessly until the entire storm front shattered into fragments. Lightning flickered one last time, unable to reform. The thunder died, and the oppressive gray gave way to a clear, endless blue. I put the heavy saber away. Before I could even move, something fell from the spot where the clouds had vanished. It was a small, round object crackling with stray bolts of electricity. I caught it. It was a thunder pearl. I remembered a book I had read as a child in the Gu family's hidden library. It mentioned that many of my ancestors were monsters who could split tribulation clouds with their bare hands. There was a tiny, almost impossible chance that doing so would force the world to condense a thunder pearl, the very essence of the tribulation itself. The probability was so low it was usually ignored. I looked down at the dying heap that was Ouyang Qingyun. I had his luck to thank for this. With the fortune Tao body, walking down the street meant tripping over treasures. Drinking water meant accidentally swallowing divine elixirs. It wasn't a joke, it was his reality. And now it was mine. Ouyang Qingyun was barely clinging to life. His breathing was shallow and ragged, each gasp a wet, painful groan. After I had stripped his Tao body and drained his essence, he was worthless to me. He was just a body waiting to be traded for a system reward. "It's over," I whispered. I flicked a finger. A small, nameless spark of flame landed right between his eyebrows. The fire erupted instantly, roaring as it consumed his flesh, his bones, and his very soul. Within seconds, nothing remained. The system's voice chimed in my head immediately. "Ding! Congratulations to the host for slaying the son of destiny, Ouyang Qingyun. Reward: 100 consecutive draws in the system mall." Ding! Hidden condition triggered. Killing 2 sons of destiny within 3 days. Title awarded: Heavenly Destiny Villain. Reward: Xianyuan Qiankuan Palace. Reward: all items belonging to Ouyang Qingyun, including the auspicious whip, profound ice, jade marrow, 5 element stones, and 2,376 other treasures. These can be exchanged for mall gold. Ding! Detecting successful devouring of the fortune Tao body. Hidden reward triggered, activating the Destiny Trace Detection function. I felt a rush of information. The system began listing Ouyang Qingyun's remaining destined opportunities. He was supposed to summon a Qilin from the upper realm. He was supposed to be led there to discover the ruins of the Qianyu Mountains and find a fallen ancient clan. Most importantly, he was destined to find the fortune Tao fruit. I raised an eyebrow. The Qianyu Mountains and the ancient clans were all located in the upper realm. It made sense. In the original story, Ouyang Qingyun would have summoned his divine beast, left this small world behind, and used his insane luck to sweep through the upper realm until he reached the top. Unfortunately for him, he ran into me. The ruins didn't interest me much, but the fortune Tao fruit was different. The Tao of Fortune was one of the top powers among the 3,000 great Taos. If that fruit appeared, even my longevity Gu family wouldn't be able to ignore it. They would fight a war to claim it. If Ouyang Qingyun had lived to claim that fruit and reach the great emperor realm, he would have been unstoppable. I shifted my focus to the pile of over 2,000 treasures I had just inherited. Even as the son of God, I was stunned. The quality was mostly average, but the sheer quantity was ridiculous. Ouyang Qingyun's father probably didn't have 1% of the wealth his son carried in his pockets. That was the power of the fortune Tao body. And now, all that luck belonged to me.